Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Cosmonarchy casting stream. Today we have a myriad of replays. We have myriad replays, that's how you would say that. A myriad is just a funny word. But we have a lot of replays to cast. Today we're going to be going back all the way to the 13th of January. We've got some hit-em-up matches, which are exciting, including some hit-em-up Ascozi, believe it or not. Obviously, Ascozi have changed a lot since these games were played, but I still wanted to check them out. After that, we have a match between Sausage and Thunder Slaps. The last time I casted one of those, whew, boy, what a ridiculous ordeal. There's another hit-em-up game with him versus Ayud coming up, and then there's a whole litany of matches between Alexander and George that will be probably taking up the last half of the stream, if not a little bit more than that. We'll see how far in we get. If we do survive the litany of Alexander versus George games and end up commentating some more matches after the fact, we will be looking at an interesting matchup between Zetsumi and Gamtu, who are two players who play in like the Korean scene, if you will, of Cosmonarchy. It's more of a casual space right now. Zetsume is from Japan, but speaks Korean well enough to get on with them, the netizens over there. And I figured I saw them play a ranked match. I couldn't pass up the opportunity. There's Doglid versus Thunder Slaps, Tudor versus Flame Viper. That one's actually from the Hit 'em Up Hash on the 20th. And then there's even more Alexander versus George awaiting us. So let's see how deep we end up getting for all of the stuff that we need to do. All of the matches that we have here. Starting with a match between Hit 'em Up as Ascozi, green, in the 3 o'clock position on Rage Slave, and Reclaimers are bad. It's Arbuz Budesh. He's rocking out as Zerg in the top left. And I think his color is mahogany, but it was chestnut. Now, immediate Radix coming out here for Hit 'em Up. We'll see what he wants to do with that one a little bit later on. And after we get deeper into this match, there are two matches here between these two players. I think they were both Ascozi versus Zerg. This is a matchup that I've been waiting to see people check out. Oh shit. Oh shit.
First Danesh, 3 threes, CAAAAAAW.
I don't think that's how you intended that to be read, but thank you for your first donation and your caw. It's like when somebody follows on Twitch and it says, "Is that a fucking crow?" Caw. George says, "I destroy you." Well, you know, you might. Yeah, I destroy you. Okay, that's their new catchphrase. I appreciate that. We will be getting to those two and their games in due course. Right now, I see a second Radix coming. No proselyte shenanigans from Hit 'em Up so far. He's just rocking out with his Pilgrim moving across the map. Larvosk into pool, pretty standard here for Arbuz Budesh. And I have to say, somebody already preempted the donation. Thank you, Alexander. But I want to point out that this is a situation where normally I'm like, all right, I got to find time to chill and shout out streamlabs.com/pronago, donate towards weekend wage funding and all sorts of stuff. But Alexander already did it for me. So thank you, Alexander. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Also, you know what I was thinking about is maybe Ascozi workers should have less HP than other workers. They do have 60 HP, which is 5 more than default. You know what I mean? That's interesting. Nobody ever really commented on that, but that's all right. We'll have to see. Because I feel like maybe they're a little bit beefier than you would expect for a race that's more fragile. Instant micro back from Hit 'em Up as he uses his 3 initial missionaries. That'll just annihilate these Zethicors. There's really no hope for them by themselves. And right into the gauntlet. So Hit 'em Up is throwing down the gauntlet and saying, all right, I'm going to get my Vicars and I'm going to try to annihilate you. This Vicar is the old Vicar with extra range and ally safe splash. Just absolutely busted. Unbelievable. Let's see if Arbuz has enough to clear this. This one might be a quick one. Well, I don't know. I mean, he's going for those circuits. The problem is armor really reduces the missionary DPS. So we're going to see if he can catch any of these units, put any lasting damage on him. Right now, the answer is not really. That most wounded one ends up dialing back. A lot more quads are being made. We got Hit 'em Up in the chat already. What's up, dude? First one goes down. So there's a little bit of value here as the Quasilisks end up shoving that army back. It's a funny little dance where you damage a missionary, it moves faster. You attack with a Quas, it moves faster. So you just get this constant chase between the two. And the Gauntlet is about 80% the way there. We're going to see some Vicars come out pretty soon. Landlock expanding in the face of this. I mean, he's got 6 more missionaries at home. He will surely be fine. And it looks like Arbiz is setting up for his very own expand. He's actually kept pretty reasonable worker parity, despite having to make so many combat units. So in a good enough spot here to not just take your expansion if you're on the Zerg side of this little wagon train, but also just continuing to develop a pretty reasonable army. And you're pretty happy with this worker count. I like the little fake out where there's 6 missionaries up top, and then there's 5 down here. A couple of cardinals come out to see what they can do. I like the idea of committing to shutting down that pilgrim, but not worth losing all the quas in Arbiz's mind, so he ends up falling back. Zerg are indeed here. Thank you, Shambler. Welcome. 3 Radix is going to be the production cycle here, and Hit 'em Up does end up adding a grandstand. Where does he put that? Inside the resource line, yeah, in case of any air units coming in. Shroud and Pool. Okay, so we are going to see the Vornath Pond turn into the next tech node that Arbiz has. I think he does want Vorvs here. I think they're pretty good versus the biotic composition. But I have a feeling we're going to see one of the reasons why I elected to end up changing the Vicar into ally unsafe splash is exactly this kind of thing where the Zerg does what they're supposed to do in most cases, surround the enemy, get on top of the backline, and then they still die anyway with no success. And it's like, it's a little too offensive. It's a little too offensive, guys. Cardinals just cycling backwards. Bit of a surround coming in from the Zets, but it's a little anemic, actually. I think Hit 'em Up has hit a really, really good timing before Shroud units, before Vorvs, and yeah, Arbiz just kind of throws in the towel, knowing he did not quite slow that push enough. Interesting little dynamic there between Hit 'em Up and Arbiz. Let's see what happens in Game 2. No surprise to me that Hit 'em Up took a game on Rage Slave, though. I mean, come on. I can't remember if the second game is also on Rage Slave. I think we're going to a different map for that one. Welcome all homies who have popped in to see what's going on. Yes, it is indeed a different map. Let's go, boys. All right, we are on a different map. What map is this? I don't think I've seen this map before. Is this Parabellum? Yeah, okay, that's what. Okay. All right. Hold on. I gotta pop back in because it'll break the replay there. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on Parabellum for map 2. I will update the overlay in a moment. This is a map by Doglived with Biddy B helping out a little bit, so I heard. Now the green Zerg, bottom left, it's going to be Arbiz Budesh up against the eggshell blue Ascozi. And of course, Hit 'em Up is going for that instantaneous radix. Well, not exactly instantaneous. It's a 7 radix. Not exactly instantaneous. He's won that first game on Rage Slave, was pretty perfunctory there. Wasn't able to post much of a defense. We'll see if Arbiz wants to change up his style here going into the next one. I do feel like the colors overall of Ascozi, I see people typing in the chat about green looks good on Ascozi, according to Kutyam. And I think it does, yeah, but honestly, the only concern I would have is if it's like midnight green or dark forest green or whatever, it's going to be very eerily close to one of the colors we actually put on their materials when rendering out models for them, which not every unit is a model. Some of them are just sprites from other games, which we greatly appreciate those other games for either being abandonware or for actually allowing us directly to use them, like Black Chain was one that allowed us to use their portraits. Obviously, Five Nations allowed us to use their graphics in general. Very cool stuff. Actually, funnily enough, Five Nations originally had animated portraits for their units, and Voyager, from the Start.net community, was going to process them. But I feel like he just gave up on that. I can't remember why. Too bad, though. We could always use more portraits, I'll tell you that much. Now, the Hydrathen is complete for Arbiz. He is clearly going for a more, firepower pack-in style here. Wants to make sure that he can defend himself versus the untold amounts of Ascozi bio that are going to be coming his way. And look at this, a grandstand at the ramp because he scouts out that it's a Hydrath opener. But a Hydralisk first is probably not what, Hit 'em Up was initially expecting. Though I do think that you do want to go for Hydras more than you want to go for Izira cores in the early game, because if they go Missionary or Rove, they both have Impact Dissipation, this passive that makes it so that they move faster when damaged and they heal a small amount of health. So typically, if you're doing only a small amount of damage but to a lot of targets, it's kind of like how you don't want to make Izira cores against Simulacrum unless you can get a lot of Izira cores, you know? So that can be pretty powerful there. He garrisons the missionaries. I love it. Now, the Cypher is on the way, which is an interesting choice. He's double teching here. I think we might be seeing him rushing to tier 2 bio, which would be pretty amusing. Expansion already coming for Arbiz as he scouts the static defense here. Currently, I believe, let's see.
Birds in the sky!
Oh.
Class 4 prison sends its regards.
This man donated 10 RON. What the hell is a RON, guys? Thank you for the donation, George. And I don't know what that equates to, but I appreciate it, you know? I appreciate it. It's money. It is money. It is money. It's a super chat as well. Okay, this is my George. You are my first YouTube super chatter. I hope you feel very, very happy about that. You are the bird in the sky, according to the Wyvern voice acting. Avaleth here with nothing in it. Just going to be used for a scout, plus maybe a little bit of a drop fake out. And there it is, the Proscenium. Tier 2 Biotic on the way for hit 'em up. Throws down 2 of them. I'm guessing he's just going to make a lot of Aphorists. That's my guess. Macro Hatch on 2 base. Pilgrim gets bullied by the Hydra. Cannot be saved. That's pretty brutal. He didn't have vision up this little piece here. And then he walked up and there was a cardinal in his face and a bunch of missionaries just unloaded. You know what? If you guys, I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts very much or whatever. I feel like everybody does. Oh, nice little read on that. Of course, nothing in it, so this isn't consequential. I can go back to my podcast talk. But I feel like there's this one podcaster, Michael Malice, and he's really funny. Not quite a comedian, but pretty close. And somebody donates to him with like money from a country that isn't, you know, it's not a euro and it's not I think even he does it for euros actually. He's probably pretty American focused, but if somebody donates and it's not in USD, he's like, get out of here with your third world money. And I just, you know, I don't really ever think, yeah, that's the appropriate thing for me to say when somebody just gave me money. But I almost admire the gall that he has, you know what I mean? Like, there it is, the first Aphorist is on the way. And the second Aphorist is on the way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see some Aphorists. They have a quad shot, and it does a little arc like the Phalanx. It's pretty neat visually. Pilgrim moving across the map now to see what it can scout. And Hit 'em Up actually is behind in workers. This is looking like a pretty meaty amount of Hydrith units. The Vicar count is okay. If we can get up to, you know, 4 Aphorists, we'll be pretty comfortable on the hold here. One more Vicar as well certainly won't hurt. Tethith Swamp on the way. I believe this is before the Tetzoricors and the Sarkavicors lost their armor pen on the Bones of Reflection attack. There it is. Just levy him in. Get him. Get him. All right, he's fine. You can wait. With more Aphorists on the way, I do feel like Arbuz is in for a difficult attempt at breaking that position, if that's what he wants to do. You can see that he's capped his ridge inside the natural, but not the main base, which is a classic. I don't really know why people do that sometimes, but could have been mining gas from that ridge the whole time. Silly Arbuz. Not very much mining going on here for Hit 'em Up, but he does have a pretty powerful blob of tier 2 and tier 1 mix. Let's see what he wants to get done here. He's ranging him down. I still think that this could backfire. This could backfire if we get some frontliners that can actually, you know, hold the attack. Tetzoricors are on the way. That's definitely one way to do it. 5 of them. Very, very heavy play here from Arbuz. He wants to just try to slow this army down, but you can see it getting flattened by all the splash damage, and that might have been a mistake to allow. Feels like he was in a really good spot to just, you know, power through. Do we have anything that can peel off? I guess Vicars can, you know, slow the enemy and then walk away. That's something that they can definitely do. And, you know, it's only 5 Teths, so I think it's a possibility that you can kind of split them up. But now we have the attempted flank coming in. The Chadricor sauntering forward. And that's going to be a lot of splash damage. He's really got to respect that. He's not walking back at all, and certainly not using any of his abilities either. He kills one Tetzoricor, and that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Back at home, masked up. He's got extra proscenium, starting to add the Thomologs. They've got a little bit of armor pen. They'll be able to be a bit more useful. But really what it feels like he needs right now is avatars to put down the armor end on the individual Tetzoricors. Maybe even, dare I say, hijack the Tetzoricors. Might be a better choice. We're adding a lot of Bactyls, though. This is before armor end was implemented. Oh, okay. So, yeah, that makes it a lot harder. What's up, Smarty? Buff Zerg? Why would I do that? Zerg is the hardest race until you learn how to play Cosmonarchy, and then it's the easiest race. I think they're in the perfect sort of Schrodinger's spot right now. I don't think there's any concern here whatsoever. Adding a function, interesting. I wonder if that's for object or something. A couple functions being added here. So the Thomolog does have 2 armor pen. Pretty legit. I feel like they'll be able to range down the Teths nicely enough. We are in a legit game, but Hit 'em Up did admittedly, like... It seems like he deliberately tried to just do a funny, like, greed build to get up to tier 2 really fast. So Arb is taking advantage of that with a Hydra's composition. He's got his Bactyls out for that bounce damage. You got to watch out for how many times they shoot in from max range, because they will end up bouncing all of these targets, and there's no sustain here with this composition. We don't have any mimics for corpse consumption. We don't have any... obviously, Fontus wasn't implemented at this point, but that's all right. You know, like, the reason why the Hit 'em Up doesn't make a Fontus isn't because it wasn't implemented yet. It's because he's bad. That's why. 11 Hydras being made per rotation. We got that 3rd base up for the Zerg, and it's only now being started at the 3 o'clock position for Hit 'em Up. The first Mimic has arrived. Finally using the Cypher for something other than just grabbing an extra little bit and bob from the tier 2. Intendant's on the way as well for that armor pen. Pretty good choice there. He's clumped up, though. He's very clumped up, and he definitely needs to respect that a little bit more. Oh, no. Oh, no. The first fight not taken very well. And that will be a cancel on that base at 3. At least a halt, or, you know? A couple Pilgrims trying to sneak by. Nah, I don't think so, buddy. Yeah, and it does indeed get full canceled. So, not going to just be waylaid there for a while. A couple more Intendants on the way. He's making a few more. I like the idea. A couple Pilgrims trying to move up to 12, but there's a Hydra already watching. I guess you could Worker Uprising that guy. Yeah, that's exactly what Hit 'em Up is trying to do. Arbiz is slowly panning over there. Ooh, Skepticores are coming out. Now, the army does end up catching them, which is pretty good. Obviously, as you can see, Aphorists do not shoot up, but the Thomologs and the Vicars will be more than enough. Oh, no! Get him! He only has a little bit of health that he's missing. No, I guess not. Grandstand, Landlock. Okay. More Intendants are out. I actually think the Intendant count here is looking pretty respectable, but we need to see a better fight than what Hit 'em Up took in the previous one. Yeah, I think that the Intendants will... Intendant-Vicar combo, where the Vicar slows down the unit and then the Intendant, you know, deals extra damage to it because of the fact that he's got armor. That's a pretty good combo there. You know, starting to get that mining up, getting back into the worker count there. You can see Arbus is kind of slowed down there. Ooh, Mimic Aphorist? Hell yeah, dude, sign me up. Mimic Vicar is pretty good too, though, to be honest. It's a good little army positioning, but he does need to watch out because this bridge is about to be his undoing. Got Skits and a bunch of ground army moving in on multiple fronts here. Can Hit 'em Up get out with his army, or at least do enough damage to, you know, force Arbiz to remake it? He's actually diving through. This is probably the best case scenario for him, because if he can just consolidate all of his DPS into one spot here, he loses the Mimic very early on. But now here comes in the flank, and oh, baby, it's a war on multiple fronts. And I don't think the Escozi are winning. Sandwiched between a rock and a hard place, a whole lot of dead homies. Dead lizard people. Zerg here. Now, we do have some units over here. If you made the bounty guys earlier, auto-win. Talking about the Intendants, I guess. But I want to try tier 2, says Hit 'em Up. And it's true. He does want to try tier 2. He must be very happy now that tier 2 is more mostly implemented. Everything from bio, all but one unit from mech and air. Hydra unburrows, but just gets blasted by the grandstand. However, this does maybe telegraph, yeah, exactly this, exactly where the army is going, and Hit 'em Up is a little bit slow to rotate over. He's going to lose a lot of workers in the process. Grandstands are pretty durable, but they do go down pretty quickly when you're focusing them down with all this stuff, and perhaps more to the point, had a lot worse of a deal going on there with all the worker focus. And the Tetsurasaurs, they're keeping them alive versus the Intendants long enough to deal the necessary damage. Still, it's a pretty good, cost efficiency after all. The problem is he lost at third base, and he's not auto-winning the fight, so looking pretty bad there in that respect. Just trying to make as many Thaumaturgs as he can, as many Aphorists for the ground army. Honestly, it's kind of working out for him in that way, but so many dead workers. That being said, Arbus is at the same worker count. It's just that he's still up a base. I like how his two Tets were over here. That they could have helped swing the fight a little bit more in the Zerg's favor. Good grief. Okay, saved, boys. We're still in this. Escozi still stay winning, right? Wink. Bunch of Hydras, bunch of Visiricors, and of course a bunch of Tetsurasaurs. 2 more functions being added to try to use that mech. If Hit 'em Up wins from here, I guess I can never be surprised when Hit 'em Up wins, but I was expecting him to just kind of keel over at that point. His army's still working, still doing the shooty. This might be even before the Thaumalog passive was implemented, actually. I don't think that Arbus is going to have any problems clearing this ramp. Do we have any significant reinforcements or standing army? The numbers here are falling a little bit too quickly. Yeah, and GG has to be called. Hit 'em Up knows he's been routed. He did not have the force to deal with the Arbus. So that will be a game 1 for our Zerg player. I'll go ahead and throw it up there for posterity. In that game, I think we mostly saw that the Tier 2 rush doesn't have the production capacity behind it to really make matters work for the Escozi. It's interesting, though, and I'm glad to see Arbus get on the board versus such a strategy. There will be more Escozi versus Zerg action soon, I'm sure. GG. Yeah, Thaumalog no passive. Yeah, that makes sense. We need to see a little bit more of that juicy Tier 2 stuff in the modern patch. That's for... I can only imagine what we're about to watch, though. It's same patch, but there is one game between Hit 'em Up and Top Ramen that I wanted to cast. And it is on Tsunami by the looks of it. Very cool. Oh, yeah. What's up, 3Crow? Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well. I guess I should mention here, because I don't always remember to mention it at the beginning of my streams or whatever. But we will be back after a break. We'll, there will be a second stream today, and it will be playing 3Crow's campaign, if you can believe it. So that is what I will be doing in a few hours, I guess. Maybe several hours. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, another Cosmonarchy cast is being brought to your feeds. Hit 'em Up is in the bottom right of Tsunami as the Escozi, and he is playing against Top Ramen in the top left. And, well, that's always cool to see some Terran versus Escozi. This is a matchup that I am told that the Escozi should win versus Terran if they do a Giga Rush. I'm also told that it should be pretty difficult if the Terran is able to get up to Palladium tier. So our color guesses here are going to be a little bit interesting because of the color filter on the screen to make it look a little bit underwater. Because this is a port of Oceanborn done by Jujic, and I did advise him on the color grading. We might lessen its impact later on. We'll see. But I like the vibe. Maybe we need like an ambient sound emitter across the whole map that's like bloop, 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 for bubbles and stuff. I think that would really add to it personally. Let's see what these colors are looking like. I think this is a dark olive, but it was dark bronze. I suppose I was partially correct. and that is the Escozy color. Meanwhile, I think Top Ramen is just white, but he was platinum, a little bit of an off-white. Yeah, okay, all right, makes sense. The recolor changes even the UI. It's not just the tinting the in-game, because it's not possible to just tint the in-game, so it's really hard mode to guess colors on something like that. Let's find out what happens with Hit 'em Up's Pilgrim Scout confirming double fulcrum. At this point, as you can see by Hit 'em Up's chat, Ramen has already played a couple of games against Hit 'em Up's Escozy. We'll see how it goes. And, you know, when I see got too cocky there and almost died from Hit 'em Up, I 1000% know it was some BS that should never have been allowed to happen. And, yeah, it's just how it is. That's the way it goes. Look at that. Escozy workers take... Is that right? No, they take 3 shots, right? Surely. No, it's actually 4 vulture shots. Holy moly. That's wild. That should never happen. That's not allowed. Firing line. Firing squad. Unbelievable. All right. Pretty fast expansion here from our mech Terran. No big surprises there. Macro landlock. Okay, that's what my brain was erroring on. I was like, what is going on here? And then I realized macro landlock. Very cool. Very nice. Watchdog coming up for anti-air. Interesting blind watchdog. What is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of this? What kind of absolute shenanigans would Hit 'em Up have done in the early stages of the game? Is that just... I'm going to forget to do this versus tirades later. I'm going to do it now. He's not playing Protoss. He's not playing versus Zerg, you know? Like, I'm wondering what that is. Anyway, macro landlock and a gauntlet. We will be seeing the Radixes empowered to make Vickers. Setting some mines up at the extremis of the map. Just so you guys know, the blocks here in the minimap are... This blocks this pathway, and there's an XY symmetry going on over here to do that one. And then, of course, in the middle, we do have some fantabulous... partial blocks where you can still path around it. So I wouldn't recommend it. It is pretty difficult. It's probably better to just go down the middle of the map, but there you have it. These gateways are also to help like wall assisting / setting up this up as a bit of a choke. Obviously you can pop it, but don't always need to. Vultures and Cyclops moving across the map right about now. Feels like Ramen is interested in poking at Hit 'em Up. I think if you don't poke Hit 'em Up every now and then, you're doomed to get slapped around a little bit by some cheese that happens later on. Or, not really cheese, right? But some ridiculous, strange strategy. And look at this. It's going to be what looks to be triple Cosmoscope here. So that's what the Gauntlet was for. It is just going to be mass tirade, maybe? I don't know. Let's find out. Suddenly that Watchdog looks a little bit better. Now, again, we're talking about that's weak splash damage, helping out the missionaries more than it hurts them. But this many Cyclops, I think, will be enough to deal with this. So this should be a pretty scary force that Hit 'em Up is going to have to invest some into defending. Macro time for Ramen. Goes back to his base after denying the construction pace. And, of course, the cancel comes out. So no worries there. He's trying to force his way up the ramp. I don't know if that's a little bit audacious. The one Vicar taking some fire. And, of course, the Radix is under attack. Those Cosmoscopes are not done yet, by the way. So if there are any reinforcements that come in and continue to reign supreme, I love that he's disrupting the Radix constructions. But, yeah, it looks like it'll be cleaned up just fine. No worries there. And only a couple of Cyclops are over here. So Ramen's going to have to, you know, pull them away. Or maybe he'll allow it. Weird lag, he says. Honestly, that Vicar could be bopped, but it doesn't look like that's something that Ramen's too considering right now. He is a little bit out of practice. He was telling me and some other people in general that yeah, work has been pretty crazy cycle-wise. He's waiting on it. He's hoping to make make more time for Cosmonarchy when he can. But obviously, we miss you, Legend. Thanks for showing up and entering the hyperbolic hit chamber and then just practicing up a little bit versus the new race. We do have some tirades coming out. As predicted. Is this before the Tirade nerf? Yes, because they had 7 damage in the live patch instead of 10. So this is pretty bad, but I think Terran can deal with this pretty easily. I mean, they've got Goliaths and they can make mass Watchdog, right? So the problem is I don't believe that Ramen got deep enough to scout the Cosmoscope. So he has no idea that this is coming, but he still makes a Blind Watchdog in the natural and a Blind Watchdog in the main. He's adding a Star Pad halfway complete, a 6th Fulcrum. He's not really producing much of anything in terms of dedicated anti-air. The Cyclops are going to be okay, but not super ideal. Adding some more Watchdogs, as Hit 'em Up may have shown his hand a little bit too early. Yeah, immediately putting down like 5 Watchdog per base is probably a smart move, or maybe putting them out here on the sides. You could see, yeah, he's doing exactly that. He's like, yep, I know what you're up to. I know what you're all about. Hit 'em Up says, fine, I'll back off for now, and I'll just come back with 20 Tirade. That's why I've got 3 Cosmoscopes. No, the Tirade received consecutive adjustments. It wasn't all nerfs, but most of them were nerfs. It wasn't always just like, yeah, one fell swoop, cut everything. I was watching games. I was seeing what was going on. A couple dyads being made by Hit 'em Up now. Wants to maybe make some dedicated construction. Tirade's come back to heckle the main base, interestingly enough. Oh dear. Well, actually, it couldn't quite shoot everything. There we go. Now it's shooting everything. But it looks like only 1 Mason went down from what I heard. Yeah, and it was this guy right next to it. So not too bad. It was only 2 Tirades. Didn't quite go deep enough to hit the Masons there. It doesn't help that you have to kind of hit the stop key on the Tirade sometimes for it to actually shoot everything. That'll be fixed eventually. Cyclops are wrecking the units up at the front. Let's see what Hit 'em Up wants to do. He's got a very nice little setup here for a concave, if you will. Slamming out more and more Missionaries, Cardinals, more Tirades. 1 Valkyrie hunting around for any other units. He's going to go in for a scout. I kind of like this play. I mean, the Valkyrie's a pretty durable unit, right? So just going to come in and see what's going on. Now the Tirades come in. They're great positioning on those. This is going to be a crunch onto the Cyclops. There's not really any hope for them to get much done here. And there it is. One of them does end up getting deployed. Oh, more of them are going to go from there. With all that splash damage, I feel like. What were the dyads made for, if not to make structures? Does he want to salvage some of his own stuff? I'm not sure. Couple more units kind of eking through there. We have a Trojan coming in with a 4 Cyclops drop at the same time, though, and the Tirades are a little bit far away afield. Not currently busy with that right now, though. Yeah, mass drops are incoming. This is what Smarty in the chat even said. I hope he does that. Well, hope no longer, my friend. It is here. Killing just 1 Pilgrim so far. Guys, we have a 4th race in the game. Isn't that epic? Hit 'em Up is going to make it so, pushing forward with his bio. Announcing his presence in the process, Tirade's moving up towards the 11 o'clock position. Functions in the natural. Get some more mech units there. Mass Pilgrim with a couple of escort units here and there are going to try to deal with that. Ooh, the Ministry under some duress here. And now here come the Valkyries. They are only going to succeed in sending the Tirades into a frenzy for a short time, though. But the splash damage with all the Cyclops definitely helps out. And we didn't really have much of a reaction because at the same time, oh, the drop from Ramen. He's got his hands back. Beautiful. No static defense in here, so he loses a lot more Pilgrims that time around. Ramen still has a worker disadvantage right now, but a little bit easier for him to actually get a 3rd base set up. This one's burning, but he can go back to it soon. We just got mines placed in pretty good spots, and the 1 Tirade is following that Trojan. I'm sure Ramen can just unload the Cyclops and deal with that way. Oh no, no! You've only made it more powerful. Ooh, wow, that was pretty good micro there. Good job, Ramen. We'll ignore the fact that you have 700 minerals, but good job. Adding another ministry somewhere? Is that what I see? Yes. Yes, okay. Well, he's got 2 ministries. And the one that's floating, doing nothing. These guys are out of range. Now here come a massive amount of Vicars, though. And Intendants will help with the Goliaths, turning armor into a liability. Trying to step forward, though. Cyclops having a hard time getting up that ramp. The Vicars are just dealing so much splash damage. Looks like maybe the mech can still beat this army back, but the constant kiting backwards is really, really good for hit 'em up. You can see Ramen is just choosing to use all of the HP that he's got to dive closer into the natural, but now he's kind of surrounded and he doesn't have anything else going on for him right now. Looks like a drop moving to the bottom left. One Vulture has canceled out another attempted third base, or should I say fourth. The Cyclops diving for worker kills, and they do get some. More Cyclops come in after the fact to really bring the hammer down onto these Vicars, which is, you know, it looks like a waste from the Terran's POV, but you are still forcing your opponent to reinvest into gas-heavy units. 3 Cyclops coming in on the Trojan to see if he can unload over here. A Cypher being made. I wonder what for. What's he going for? Can't be Inkblot. Although you can hijack transports and steal everything inside, so. Only unloads 1. He needs to unload the others, surely. All this damage is adding up, though. Hit 'em up is certainly under some duress. Imagine with how long that took if he would have gotten more worker kills from... Devastated. From clearing it out. I was wondering what happened there, and it was just that he got owned. That's what happened. Mario Vela, welcome to the chat. Yes, there is lore about the Escozi. You can read it on the Crescilient webpage. There's a bunch of lore about all the races. Uh-oh. Oh, no! And delivered a bunch of Cyclops scrap. Too bad a Mimic isn't there to eat it all up. Maybe he made the Cypher just to get access to Tier 2 if he wants to throw down some Presidiums for Aphorists. I don't really know that that would be the most useful here, but... Mass Cyclops, the Intendant's trying to step to them. The problem that I'm seeing here is that Hit 'em Up is no longer able to just step to the enemy composition. Terran is scaled up too much. So when we factor that in, especially with that third base mining for both players, Hit 'em Up might have an eco advantage. Oh wow, fourth base is already up and running. Never mind. Even though Hit 'em Up has a worker lead, he does not have an eco advantage. And Ramen's army is just going to be a little bit better at frontal fights. So we need to see some more outmaneuvering. We need to see some more crafty strategies. And I don't know what's happening over here with the Trojan coming up, but I think Ramen forgot about it. Yeah, there he is. So now he's going to go ahead and unload this. That Hit 'em Up must be so confused. Like, that was in my base for so long and you had 2 more? What the fuck? Alright, finally. At long last, the Cyclops drops are going to be devastated. It's funny, because Ramen's been the one playing crafty and sneaky with the drops. Hit 'em Up, on the other hand, he's just trying to build up the composition that can A-move the enemy army, which, you know, it's harder than it looks, because the Escozi are not really built for that. Got some objects now, I can maybe soak up some incoming damage. There's so many Cyclops, dude. Ramen, I think Ramen is embracing the memes. Ramen is embracing the memes. He's going mass Cyclops. You never go full Cyclops, but Ramen is going full Cyclops right now. Got some vultures here just to distract the army of Hit 'em Up. Why does this look like the roles are reversed? Surely the Escozi player should be distracting the Terran's army with small amounts of units that are meant to be sacrificial, while the Terran is trying to just build up a ball of death and move forward and lay siege to some of these bases. But no, Ramen says, I'm making 12 Goliaths, motherfucker. As one Antseal's shielding, it isn't going to last for very long. He softens up a lot of the Intendants, and wow, so many of them going boom at the end there. Even a couple of the Vicars off to the side really heavily reduces the Escozi army composition size. And for only pure Cyclops, I mean, you're probably pretty happy with that trade in the Terran's case. You've got the better eco, and you're trading down more expensive units. Only one object left standing from that little squad. We got some more reinforcements moving across the map. Now, I said you're probably pretty happy. You're not happy if you're, you know, Mech Army isn't able to get in a position to actually do anything about it. 8 more Cyclops on the way, but the mass Goliaths that have come out of Top Ramen, he's up to 17 of the things. It's going to be really hard for this army to deal with them. The Vickers are trying to kill the Ancials. You actually want to focus down the Intendants here because they're going to be better versus armor. Evacuating some of those Masons. A lot of them did end up going down. Now a 30-worker deficit as the 4th base is being assembled here for our Ascozi player. Some units popping in over here to this side, and a big move from Hit 'em Up to take down this undefended base in the outer lying sector. All of a sudden, Ramen's got to lift that off, but there's no Masons to mine from it. Down to 56 workers, a 50-worker deficit. And prosceniums are coming online. Tier 2 bio will be in play here for the Ascozi. Trading up with the Intendants on the ramp, it's just making it harder and harder for the Terran army to trade cost efficiently. This is the kind of distraction move I was talking about earlier, where I felt like the Vultures were doing that to the Ascozi ball, and really what should have happened is the Ascozi doing that to the Terran ball. Now he's going to try to bust open these Monuments of Sin, see if he can open up some more of the pathways. One Goliath taking a very long time to kill a missionary, thanks to Impact Dissipation. My beloved. I do think, you know, like we saw Jimmy versus Jack. Oh my god. Can't even land over there, buddy. Got a lot of macro ministries for making more stuff. I don't know why he did that. Yeah, these are pranked Cosmonarchy matches, honestly. What a disaster. What's up, Lucy? A second grandstand where the first one was made. Is he even going to do anything about it? Why did he just blow up his own Cyclops? Okay, I see what's happening. We have a Bestiary on the way for Hit 'em Up. He will be making Dorinan if the game goes on that long. Still has a crushing economic advantage going for his 5th base. And the grandstand just full kills the Ministry. I don't know what was happening there. Good God. The Intendant count is outstripping the Goliath count. Masons were brought to the front line. I'm not really sure why. The Cyclops are still beating him back, just showing how much better the Terran Arsenal is at taking frontal fights. But defensive moves over here with the Aphoris, the grandstands. It's a little bit too much, I think, for Ramen to deal with. He's down to his last set of minerals, spending down on only Cyclops. He's gone full Cyclops. He's rallying Masons over here to 12. I think he forgot, or maybe the player color blended into the minimap and he didn't notice the grandstands were over there. Either way, what a move. And I think we can say with pretty much some extreme certainty that Hit 'em Up is on the precipice of winning this game and driving it home. What a glorious match. We get to see all sorts of Ascozi tech. And it's only going to get better from here, guys. It is only going to get better from here. He took a long look at that. I wonder if he would, like, does Robin ever start typing GG and then hit escape? I don't know, but his ramp is full. I don't know what's going on over here. It's a bit of a struggle. It's a bit of a struggle. Not today, bot. That's right. But yes, today, the Ascozi army. Random Cyclops getting caught in the crossfire here. Actually, the end of this game might have been a little bit more dramatic in the real version. It looks like the replay broke towards the end, but we still see everything we need to see. Never got the chance to clear that 12 o'clock. Now his base is under attack from multiple fronts. And the rest of the army will soon follow. So I guess we can quickly speed through this part as the Ministry will be first dead. And with that base falling, Top Ramen knows time to GG. Dude, Hit 'em Up was making Helions at the end of that game. That's ridiculous. All right, guys. Now you know how to beat Terran as Ascozi. Just do that. What a game. What a game. I am glad I casted that game. A very long match on the Oceanborn Port Tsunami. Very cool. Very appreciated. Oh, looks like we have one more match on the same patch at least. Where they make no phalanx, that's right. Well, tell them that they need phalanx. and then you're good to go, you know? We will be staying with that tile set, but going to a different map. Demaloon is up next. Adding one race creates so many new matchups, it's pretty epic. Because now we're going to PvZ, and we haven't seen this matchup yet. That's pretty cool. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I have for you a very exciting match. We have Thunder Slaps versus Sausage, and it's going to be a good one. We're on Demaloon, a map by Jujic. Ended up porting Overwatch, but not the Overwatch you're thinking of. Sausage is the eggshell blue Protoss in the top left, and Thunder Slaps is the neon carrot Zerg in the bottom right. Talking about who's slapping who. You know, it was the Night Fox earlier who was talking about all of the glorious pairings that Cosmonarchy has, where we have like sausage and wheat, and we have fox and cannoli, and we have... I kind of feel like, you know, we just casted a Hit 'em Up Ramen game. I kind of feel like Hit 'em Up Ramen is in that list, just because they spend so much time, you know, playing against each other and talking some smack and stuff and all of that. But I dig it. I dig it. It's really cool to see that kind of thing over time. There are a few others there. Alexander and George are the newest one. We'll be looking at them later today. Interestingly enough, Sausage is going to go for a forward gateway. This must be some kind of reaction to Thunder Slaps' extreme aggression that I've known to, I've grown to love. And this sort of two-gate wall, is this even tight? I don't think so. A two-gate Warden, then Scout. Well, I love that Sausage is experimenting. I do think that if you get hit with like a 6-pool, you're probably not going to enjoy that, since your military production is so far away from your workers, and then your pylon is powering your gateway, and that's easy fodder. So let's see what happens as we get closer to that termination point. You guys want to support Cosmonarchy? Our coffee page is open for commissions and for monthly support. You get lots of perks in exchange for it. And we also have streamlabs.com/pronago, where you can donate for, you know, viewing reasons, competitive reasons. You want to pump up prize pools for things like weekend wages and show matches. We actually have a bunch of show matches coming up this weekend. Hope you join us for those. And thanks for hanging out. Couple Zealots, couple Legionnaires. Sausage should be pretty well equipped to deal with this. And he actually puts down a second Warden. I feel like he's really concerned about what's been going on with with what Thunder's been doing. But he does put down the Nexus. He's going to have that eco lead. Thunder's actually made a lot of Droleth for a Thunder anyway, for a Thunder Slapper. Going to be at 14 after puts that hatch. And the anti-slap, Thunder Slap. Slap. I'm agreeing with Thunder here. I don't know if that's actually the anti-slap, but maybe. Perhaps. Perchance. I feel like the 2-gate here is going to have to tech into something else, but he's just adding a 3rd gateway around his Nexus. One Legionnaire trying to move in for a bit of a scout. Very nice micro there for Thunder Slaps. Lays the smackdown on him. It was revealed recently that Thunder Slaps is actually Canadian, so we now have 3, you know, Canadian players that are pretty reasonable at the game. Hit 'em Up being the best of the bunch. And of course there's Rainarel as well, who's pretty helpful. Does a lot of icon processing for us. And also plays some team games and stuff. Zealots just trying what they can do to range down, but there's a lot of quads, and Thunder's pretty good at the micro. Now, he does invest a lot. He indexes a lot into micro. We saw that for a long time, his production tab was pretty idle there. Ends up doing a round of Droleth. Now, needs to make better decisions about which targets he's selecting, because he's kind of spreading his damage out there. Still, he feels like just the raw aura of Thunder Slaps as he charges across this bridge with way less units than you would want. Trades all of those quads for one Zealot. I I mean, what a Giga Chat, honestly. That was easily like 8 quads or something. And yeah, he had 13. So when I had group selected him at one point, he traded 8 quads for 1 Zealot. I love it. It's exactly what you want. Drakenon's coming out in pretty good force. Calcure Lake very quickly here for Thunder, and he takes a 3rd base as well off the back of it. His scout moves forward and immediately dials back. He wants to see what he can do to avoid being, losing these for free. I love that he's moving to the top right, forcing Sausage to abandon any push across the middle of the map. And now you're in the dark. You're worried. Are there a bunch of Zetracores, Vorvacores even coming across the map? It could be. We know there's not. There's also a lot of idle Droleth in the natural. As more combat units are being thought of for Thunder, he is making an Ovaleth instead. He'll go for his 2 Circuit at the natural and feel somewhat empowered. He does end up saturating with those Droleths. Orders 3 more pairs of claws. He's got a lot more where that came from. And is this going to be enough? Because the circuits are going to finish, but one of them's already pretty bruised up. At the very least, as he remorphs it, we will see all the Zealots go down. And the claws can try to get on top of the Drakenons. A little bit easier to kill the Drakenons than it is to kill the Zealots, since the shields do not have more armor. And look at that, immediately makes a bunch of Lyrilisks, and now just needs to stay in front with all of his chaff. If he can hide the fact that he's got these units coming, and Sausage doesn't realize it, he'll overstay, and the Lyrilisks can chase those Dracs all the way back home. A lot of Quaws about to hatch. A lot of Quaws about to hatch. He might have seen those eggs and thought they were Vorvs. Either way, you need to back away. That's not what we have happening here. Sausage is playing extremely dangerously at this moment, and as that circuit pops again, the Lyrilisks come out, and you're about to see the Zerg just run roughshod over this army. Very, very dangerous to try to deal with this with just Striders. You can see that there's no hope for the Drakenons, the Hierophants, to really get much of anything done. That Hierophant escaping is kind of a small gift, a small miracle. In fact, the bounce damage might kill it, but instead, it looks like Thunder's just a little bit AFK with those poor Lyrilisks. As Arbuz calls them, the vomit puppies. Ovaleth moving out. Might be a nice little fake for a transport. Ends up making a lot more Lyras where that came from. Try to replace the ones that he lost breaking out of his natural. And it was pretty epic that he had this 3rd base up and running that entire time. Albeit it didn't give him many Droleth. He is in a position where he can immediately start saturating it. He doesn't need to wait. Whereas like Sausage probably thinks, okay, I delayed him from taking a 3rd base. I'm in a pretty good spot. There's going to be some time before it activates. I'll have time to build up my Ardents and such. Instead, a 6 Lyra drop is on the way. We do have reasonable Droleth count here once they actually get to mining for a Zerg player at this time. And yeah, he's just making a ton of Nathracores. I guarantee you those are going to be Lyrilisks soon. Eskagan in the main base here to try to add a little bit more Vespine production. And he's got a nice Claws count, an okay Lyrilisk count. I'd prefer some more. I thought he was making 9. I misread the 6 as a 9, apparently. Oh, no. There was more of them there. Obviously, there's where the drop is. And so he's going to be able to unload over here and just kill the Matrix with the Lyras. Do a lot of bounce damage, incidentally, to the Scribes, force an evacuation. That's going to shut down half of Sausage's income. Pretty big. Ooh, and look at this. He is making those Calculisks. You know what would be a really cool timing attack is if you did the Lyrilisks and the Calculisks at the same time, and you try to, like, force all of those Scribes away, and then go after the... then you go after them in the natural, when they're all corralled in the same spot. So he's going to go ahead and force down the Matrix after killing a couple of Scribes on the way out. Only 1 Claws actually being regressed there. And he's also going to be testing the front gates at the same time. Remember, those Calculisks are on the way, or they're done. They're not actually in transit yet. But this is really deadly. I don't think Sausage is going to be able to deal with this right now. He just doesn't have any way to get back into his own base. He walled himself off. The anti-Thunder Slap comes back to bite him as his Zealots are struggling to kill the Lyras. Those aren't your ordinary Quasilisks where you can just send a couple of token gateway units and finish the job that way. At least the Acantors are able to shell from the high ground, and that will help. In fact, this gateway going down might end up helping Sausage more than it hurts him. Ends up relocating a couple more Lyrilisks where that came from to start targeting down the Ardents and just being a nuisance. We still have those calcs that Thunder has forgotten about for the time being. Little ring around the rosy with the wounded Lyrilisk there. Trying to micro his best. I feel like this is probably where you can see he over-indexes into that. He microed so hard, he forgot that he made calcs. He forgot that he's got all this money. He's making 15 Zorius, and he still has 1,000 minerals left over, guys. Man just spent like 3k minerals, probably. 12 liras. Absolutely Canadian. And I say this because now, with Godwheat and Thunderslaps both being more micro-oriented players, Hit 'em Up is the Canadian minority who, and of our top players, who is Canadian and macros. He's all by his lonesome. Nobody will macro with him. This is looking pretty deadly here. Can Sausage erect enough of a defense, sort of last ditch? He made a Cantors, and then he didn't really make anything else. The positron count is only going to be 2 when these finish. And there's a lot of opportunity for a humongous amount of Zerg to power through that main gate. As soon as Thunderslaps feels like it, anyway. He's got so much Zerg. And the gateway was never remade for the wall, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing either. Positrons come out. One of them goes down. Trying to just clear the deck over here, but now the full army of Thunderslaps is revealed. Or not really revealed yet, but it's coming. It's coming. He's got a lot of Natural Cores waiting at 12 o'clock as well. Taking top right as an expansion. 3,000 minerals still in the bank. It's just a sea of blood where a gateway once stood. And here come the Natural Cores. Here they go after the Acantor. I think they should have right-clicked the Positron. They're all going to burn up. They're all going to burn up without killing the Acantor. While the Ecclesiast and the Bulwark and the Matrix keeping the shields up. That was a mistake. Protoss are just interminable. Their structures have fallen. The second gateway at the front, no good. So what's Thunderslaps' reaction? I guess it's to look at the fact that he's filthy rich and say, I guess I can make some more units. But he's actually out of Larva, and he made a bunch of Droleth. This is his standing army right now. Very, very weak in terms of Zerg armies. But will Sausage recognize this and move across the map? Or will he fear more counterattack? Just turning them into Lyras right in front of that Zealot. Why not? He might lose the Zorius for it. Nope, looks like he stays alive. A lot of Droleth waiting in top right to be tasked with an order. 12 Zorius, 12 Lyra, and 10 Lakizilisks. As well as a lot of macro hatches so he can spend his money a little bit better. 1 Quaz scouts that the army has not left the base for Sir Sausage. And we've got a lot more static defense being erected. Not really much in the way of tech. But more gateways have been assembled for sure. So I do like the Gateway Man style. I think it has a lot of legs. And obviously it has a lot of zealots. So I guess that's by definition correct. The best kind of correct. Let's see. If we can get enough Positrons out. And we only have 3 with this army, which scares me a little bit. We should be able to do a pretty good fight here. Ecclesiast on the front line is always a bold choice. Not sure about that one. When those armor rends hit and the Lyralisks help. Oh, the lake is also getting set up here. Oh, they're going to need to burrow a little bit more aggressively than that. But we're going to see a lot of this health pool drop as all those Lakers spines start to connect. The Lyralisks have been allowed to bounce in the meanwhile. And again, Thunderslaps is just microing, just controlling units and not making them. Zerg makes them automatically with the Zorius making those Rilaro cores, but they're more good dead than they are alive as they debuff the Protoss army and reduce their armor, reduce their attack speed, and allow the rest of the Zerg to continue their march. Look at how much Zerg is left over after all that, too. No detection for Sausage. He tries to stand on the Lakers here and there. It's not going to be good enough, and he's looking at what he's got, what his opponent actually has, and thinking to himself, where did it all go wrong? Probably when you made your Zealot, your gateway walls, and then couldn't get back in with all your Striders. Probably had something to do with that. He's waypointing more Zealots in. He is trying to continue the fight. I don't think it's working for him. He sees a couple of Quaz. He's like, all right, yeah, whatever. We got some shenanigans happening over there. I have a feeling maybe the replay is broken, which is unfortunate because I was looking at the resources and I was like, yeah, that's about normal. Well, you selected more units. Hold on. Sent a Zealot over there. Maybe I just missed the Quaz attacking a Scribe or something. It doesn't look like it. Couple idle workers here. Yeah, I don't see Thunder making any more units. Well, we'll see what the next fight looks like. Thunder could make tier 2, yes. He could make a lot of things. He could have made a lot of things for a very long amount of time. But I don't think that... I guess this fight is probably more grand than it looks for us. I think we might be at our wit's end here. You think you won, though? I don't think so, dude. I think you lost. I think this replay clearly shows you losing. You have no third base. You definitely didn't make one in another version. Look at what you're doing, Sausage. Of course you didn't win. Let's see. We'll fast forward until somebody types GG. We'll get to the bottom of it. Yeah, another loss for Protoss. I agree, Ire. Yeah, I think I won, though, LOL. Actually, it was LEL. So, get fucked, dude. Get absolutely fucked. You did not win. You said GG first. That's a wrap. Thunder slapped you so hard the replay broke. That's right, Alex. I do hope that Nablime wins his Protoss someday, so he can go back to, he can try the other race. He can try Ascosi instead. Surely that's a legit thing. You didn't win, Sauce. Stop coping. You even said GG and left first. Nobody does that when they win. All right. Hold on here. Okay. Perfect. Exactly what I was looking for. You guys remember when Control P would try to print? That was funny. Nah, that's not true, dog. You weren't even in that replay. Why are you coping, dude? Why are you helping him cope? Unbelievable scene. I like the Eat Sun ship because that's pretty like Protoss accurate. They're all about the sun and stuff. What a smarty Denethor. I always say Denethor in my head. So you do with that information what you will. All right, we're going into a match between. Hold on. We're going into a match between Ayud64 and Hit Him Up. This will be Ascosi versus Protoss. It's a matchup we haven't seen recently, but it is one of the best performing videos on the channel. Was Kasuga fighting against Doglev? Pretty good stuff. Now, Hit 'em Up is going to be our Dark Bronze Ascosi, going for a Radix. Ayud64, our Blood Protoss, going for a Gateway and a pretty fast Scout. Wants to see what his opponent is doing. I wonder how the top dogs are feeling about the fourth race. I do have a feeling that it's going to introduce knowledge checks all over again to pros who have been participating. Like, we got Zeke, we got Oya, we got sometimes Wolfix and Bonneth and DeWalt and stuff. And some of those pros, and even the StarCraft 2 guys as well, are like, oh, okay, I can learn this game, sure. And then, a whole new race gets added, and they're probably just scratching their head like, what? How do I even do this then? So I do wonder how like Ayud feels about the new race being added. He is one of those guys that, I think him and Krankendow, I'd probably be like the most interested in their reactions. Because they might just be like, yeah, it's cool, extra race. But they might also be like, what the fuck, Chronogo, why have you done this? Looks like a little bit of a sneaky move here from the Pilgrim moving off to the bottom side. Just adding more radix. Double Gat on the Missionary. Takes the Scribe out real quick. Legionnaire standing vigil in case there is going to be a scout. And, oh. Okay, Hit 'em Up is going to go ahead and make some grandstands in the middle of nowhere. I see. I see. I Pity You 831 asks about, or is assuming that the most similar race thematically to the Escozi is Protoss. Well, they're cybernetic reptilian hominids whose planet was destroyed in a civil conflict, and since then they've entered a great scattering, Dune style, to attempt to find themselves again, I guess, is one way to put it. I don't know. Oh. I don't actually think that that's exactly similar to the Protoss, but shrug. I'll let you come up with your own conclusions based on that little briefing. Now, the Zealot has scouted the random tower in the middle of nowhere. They do require 10 transport space to build, which means that the Escozi cannot currently transport them in a structure or anything. Zealots, by the way, take such little damage from missionaries. Matrix is on the way for a little bit of a frontal push. The Legionnaire has no armor, so going to take a lot more damage there. And now fighting back, trying to cycle back to the second grandstand. Aoud falls back himself. Hit 'em Up not producing anything just yet, but he has got multiple Pilgrims here to try to make... He's also, like, sort of walling with them so that his missionaries can stay alive. Hasn't lost a single unit yet, and is starting to break down those Zealots. Hold on. I don't think Aoud can actually break through here. Look, he's going after the Matrix. He's cycling through. The Proselyte there helping out a little bit. And yeah, that doesn't even get canceled. Multiple grandstands going down. What will Aoud do now? He's making an Amaranth. Okay, Amaranths are pretty hard for the Escozi units to do anything to. They have very little in the way of armor pen. And they the Amaranth doesn't lose one armor when its shields go down. The Zealot does. The Amaranth also restores shields while it attacks. So... I mean, what are we going to see here? Multiple extra grandstands try to lock down and contain. There is no extra base for Hit 'em Up, and obviously his worker count is... He's only got 12 workers at home, so better eco for Aoud. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I get it. I understand. I comprehend. This is a Hit 'em Up challenge run. Random pylon at the extremis. I suppose it's for spotting drops and stuff. Eventually you're going to need to spot around your cliffs to see if there's an islet somewhere. Okay, Aoud is going to have to defend. Let's see. Hit 'em Up trying to cycle backwards. I think he will end up losing a couple missionaries here. His proselytes are on the wrong side of it. Random Pilgrim, or a couple of Pilgrims actually also. An Engram, a defensive Engram. But Aoud didn't want to build the pylon near the ramp or whatever to try to maybe shoot down. Like, he's got stuff that he can do there. Oh, putting the missionaries inside the grandstand, and the Storm is trying to break it down. Okay, all right, listen, hear me out. If Hit 'em Up builds a Chantry, then when the Storm is not active, it'll actually repair the grandstand. Unitary Union on the way for Aoud. I suppose he probably wants like Unars or something to break this up. The Storm is a funny way to try to break this, but it's not the most efficient way. You could just put like a pylon, a Warden, that kind of thing, and it would shoot the grandstand down without the grandstand being able to shoot back. Well, the landlock is done, but what do you do about it now? Oh, he's power building the Chantry. Let's go, boys. He's going to try to make this siege take as long as possible. A function and a gauntlet on the way. I am impressed. I am impressed. I'm pretty sure I was watching part of this game on stream while I was doing other things. Oh, that's a much better Storm spot. It actually damages both of them. Storm does reduce damage to structures in Cosmonarchy, where obviously it doesn't do any damage to structures in Starcraft 1. You can see now the regen is starting to kick in, thanks to the Chantry. Mostly it'll be there for the second grandstand. I think that first one that was taking too much damage to really be particularly helpful. Just slowly building up. Unitary Union is done. Is this the Grandstand Killer? Is this the one that kills the first? No. Oh, wow. It actually has more health than it had before the first time. Dude. That's wild. All right, a Unar is coming, so this will eventually be done. But it's pretty absurd what I'm seeing here. He's actually mining with like 6 workers over in this location. It's just minerals right now. Oh, wow, he's actually... With the balls on this guy, dude. He just transferred workers across the map to go and expand here. I mean, what is Ayud even thinking right now? I think when the Unar comes out, though, I don't really see a way for the... I don't really see a way for him to do anything here. Ah, synthetic cyanide, tier 4 on 1 base to break out. Makes sense. All right. Let's get that Unar shot. Ooh, and storming the workers? That's rude. Ah. Dude, I can't believe... Ayud has... He is going to make this pretty costly for Hit 'em Up. I don't really see how Hit 'em Up is going to possibly... deal with it. He's expanding at his third. Vickers and Intendants are moving out across the map. He's also taking his own natural. Maybe he's fine. That's a lot of dead workers to the storm, though. Guy's got 6 Pilgrim kills already. Ayud's intimidated by the missionaries in the Grandstand. He actually doesn't need to be. His Amaranths could just walk in here and kill everything. Man, what an absurd situation. I think he should just evacuate, honestly. I think he needs to cut his losses. Maybe he can try to kill a couple of these units on the back end, but the storm is going to be pretty good. Vickers and Intendants have to back away from it. Now they're getting really closed up on. Storm is really good there from Ayud. He just cleared so many Vickers. The power units that Hit 'em Up was starting to make, the assault units, if you will. Oh, he retreats to his previous Grandstand. Well, that kind of makes some sense. And it's still stealing some gas as well. Why not? I can only imagine what Ayud was thinking during this. Like this, if this were the thumbnail, like what would you'd assume? Like, oh, okay, the Protoss are gonna take over this base for whatever reason, but it's actually Ayud reclaiming his own natural at 9.5 minutes. His Demiurge is out. And this base is mining happily with no... Ayud is not wise to it whatsoever. He has no idea. None the wiser, that's what I was going to say. A lot of radix have been made, only 1 function so far. Well, he's going to try to break this down somewhat cost efficiently. The Intendants are going to help versus the armor. Maybe those Grandstands could focus down the Cantavis as well, but... Honestly, it kind of looks like he mostly made it through unscathed. He lost like 3 Zealots during that whole ordeal. Oh, and 2 Amaranths, it looks like, so maybe not most unscathed. Ah, the Scribe has been found. It killed a Pilgrim and then was killed itself, so... Okay. That makes sense, right? He's like, I'm going to try to take my 3rd base really quickly because I was denied my natural for so long. And actually, hold on, Ayud just stole some Pilgrims. Or at least a Pilgrim. Yeah, he's got a couple Pilgrims here. So what is he going to do with it? 2 can play at that game. Just making sure no other bases exist on his side of the map. Problem is, Hit 'em Up has a lot of units. Hit 'em Up has a humongous amount of Vickers. His Pilgrims have mostly, like a lot of them have evacuated to, inject into his natural here. Dude, tyrannized Ascozi after what we just witnessed is kind of wild. I'm just going to point that out. And I love that hit him up is still building with his... he's still building from this whole time. Let's see. A couple of Unars out in the middle of nowhere. Storm looks like it won't be going anywhere this time around. The Vicar count is pretty high. Does Ayud have anything back at home that he can send in for reinforcements? Because it does look like he's taking a lot of hits here. Oh, yeah, he's only got the one Demiurge left. He's got to fall back to the high ground, maybe end up losing his stolen Ascozi tech. Oh, the Demiurge just got forced out immediately. Down goes just about everything. No more Amaranth, no more Zealot. Beaten back to his natural there. He loses his landlock. He did make another one over here. So he will still have Ascozi tech in the late game if it gets that. I can't believe I'm saying that about a tower rush game. The Empress might not be able to evacuate. Sending in a couple sacrificial units is more than worth it, but he does end up losing it. And the Unar, he says, "Aw." And the Unar is going to be brought down sooner as well. I think this is GG. I can't believe he actually... At least he finished the landlock at the end. What a match, dude. GG. Okay, hit him up, just can't lose, even when he tower rushes. It's as plain and simple as that. Wow. Okay. All right, guys. For the moment that two of you have been waiting, it is time. Time to switch game versions and cast some Alexander versus George. A lot of ZVZ in this pool here. I hope you guys like Zerg Mirror. I hope you guys like Zerg here. Of course, Alexander will name these files stuff that literally cannot be played back because they're too long. So, absolutely annihilated. Can't even watch the replays back. Got to name them myself. All right, see you later, Smarty. Well, maybe the later ones did, but definitely not caught blue-handed ZVZ Alex versus George. No, that's a little too long. That's like half a replay file length. Too long, dude. All right, let's see. Let's see who can be the bigger Zerg today. We're going to be going on a near impact twice. And then an acid test, Jeff. It is Jug versus other top players. We should do that at some point, Vilius. That's a good idea. Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin our George versus Alexander deep dive. You guys watch our Toasted Cast, you know that he does deep dives or even just medium dives, forcing himself to look at a bunch of matches of a particular player or a particular matchup or whatever, and focusing on that for a time. Well, this begins the Alexander versus George deep dive. There are many replays that have been submitted to me. They have played hundreds of games by now, probably, or at least 100. So let's find out what's been happening. Alexander is the Ultramarine Zerg in the bottom right, and George in the top left is the Dark Bronze? Light Olive Zerg in the top left. Okay. I hope that you guys are having a good time with the Cosmonarchy content that's been coming out lately, and that you're ready to experience some very epic Zerg here. We have a pool opening for George, and Alexander is going Larvosk. By the way, I believe at some points Alexander does play like Terran and also some Ascozi. He was trying to get ready to play in the Hit 'em Up Hash, which was a newbie tournament where you had to play random. So he does try to play a couple of other matches. What was really amusing to me is apparently George did not play as the other races at all in preparation for that, and he still kind of played okay. He beat Blade Hollow's Ascozi as Protoss, even though that game took like 20 minutes longer than it should have. There were, he did play some more stuff. He did play some more. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the fact that we have enough Class 4 players these days that we could probably run a Class 4 exclusive event. Forget those stuffy Class 3 players. They don't count. We're just playing with Class 4s here, boys. That's what we need to see. So maybe we'll do that again in February, check in with our homies. And we should do that pretty regularly to see, do any of you need to be promoted to Class 3? Like Muskie Husky was promoted off of the back of his play in the Hit 'em Up Hash because he 7-0'd, and it didn't really particularly look close. But, we get those outliers, those freaks of nature out of here. We say, get up to Class 3 with you. This is for the noobs, the noobiest of the noobs. And then we just run that kind of thing. That could very well happen. So if you like that kind of idea, streamlabs.com/pronogo, you can raise money for such affairs. We'll see if we can do that in early Feb, since that is probably the next time I'd be able to do that. All right. Double Larvosk play after the pool. It was like Larvosk, pool, Larvosk, and then the circuit at the ramp. This is a quintessential move that Alexander likes to do on maps like this, where the ramp is a little bit further away from the main base. On the other hand, George is having a more oblong, sort of ovalish, elliptical, is I believe the structure that you would use for that, shape to his base. And he is planning an expansion, which is not on Alexander's radar. His Zeth cores are going to be moving across the map just in time to scout a 10 Zeth move out from George. Now, George is going to come all the way back to try to kill one Zeth with everything he owns. But it's not to be. The Drolets killed it anyway, adding insult to injury for the Zeths that ran all the way back, doggedly trying to find victory. What do we have? 5 Vorvicors on the way for George. So the Vornath was scouted. What does Alexander want to do in exchange, in response? He's got a defensive circuit, a third Larva. So he's got a lot of Larva, as well as a decent number of anti-surface defense. I guess, Alexander's basically flexing right now, probably in voice chat. He's because I think him and George are hanging out there. Yeah, I like the idea that he's basically out here like, yep, if you put your circuit in this spot, my Zeth wouldn't have gotten in to scout you. But you didn't, so noob. And I also appreciate that earlier today on stream, Alexander donated $9. I appreciate that. And then 10 Romanian dollar, whatever those are, was donated after. It's like the number is bigger, so he can donate 10 and he can one up Alexander. So I dig that. That's very good. 6 Zeths. Ooh, 12 Zeths. Okay, double Zeth drop from Alexander. Let's see what he can do with that. Triple Zeth drop. Now you're getting crazy. Why 2 when you can 3? Says Jakulansky. I feel like one thing that would be really cool is if we had, imagine a future as we continue to, we've actually refined some of the desyncs recently, gotten rid of some of them. As we continue to do stuff like that, imagine when we can do team games, casual games a little bit more commonly. And I do have a feeling, I have a strong suspicion that we could do something like Jack being the head Zerg player, and then a bunch of like Zerg players from Class 3, Class 4, and see them in action, where he's basically like leading them into a charge, and that's like the nemesis of some juggernaut top level player. It's like, if we can get one Class 3 Zerg, one Class 4 Zerg, and Jakulansky as a Class 2 Zerg, then we can have the 3 of them go up against some particular player who's who knows what he's doing. What is this blind read from George, by the way? It's just like, let me put all my units right here in the main base. There's no way the Zeth drop is going to come in here. Meanwhile, Alexander is moving across the map. He's still on 1 base, by the way. So this is kind of a committed move, although George's worker count is pretty abysmal. So, it's better than Alexander's. So that's really all that matters. But he could be more ahead. They're like champing at the bit, throwing themselves off the space ledge to see. Yeah, Alexander's. I'm going to turn around here, thanks. I don't think I need to worry about that. Which is funny, because if he just waited over here, Alexander would have come in and probably dropped. A lot more Zeth Vorv, some Quaz being made over here. Kind of spooky. Now, what does George want to do about this? There's a lot of quads and not a lot of surface area. He's hemming and hawing. He's going back and he's going forward. And he's just seeing if he can make it happen. Well, he will die for it. And now that he's actually on top of the quads, I feel like this is going to end pretty poorly. And immediately jumps on to these quads over here, microing them to deal with the Ovoleth drop as the front gates are cleared in favor of George. He unloads, but he doesn't get a single kill, does he? He killed 2 quads. 3 quads, okay. He didn't get a single kill. He got 3. But he lost all 18 Zeths for it. And most of his frontal army, only now taking an expansion. He's got 3 circuits, and he's patrolling his own quads in case of drop, in case of emergency. Well, the emergency is the enemy is moving, marching at the gates, pushing forward. The Ovoleths will probably scout that out as they move closer to the natural again. Alexander has a pretty nice little choke here, so I don't think George can break through with only pool units, but Vorvs are pretty powerful, so maybe they can take enough damage. Some anti-surface defense will be coming online here in the natural. The Vorvs, tankier than the Zets, but still getting mowed down by the Quads. This is oh man, this is going to be bad. Oh, somebody hold me. Look at all of the blood that's about to cover the battlefield. He still tries to break forward. The problem is there's more Quads where that came from. I don't think he's making it through. And the circuits will finish sooner rather than later as well. Feels like, well, the Quads are kind of getting caught up trying to kill the ones in the back line. Hold on. At the 11th hour, George might have just barely made enough. Now, there are reinforcements coming, but both of the circuits going down is actually pretty big. It's just going to be a, a more efficient strategy at this point for a more efficient hold for Alexander. I say that. There's more units coming in from George. Good targeting at the end for him, and Alexander kind of leaving his units on autopilot. They end up not clearing all the melee. He needed to maybe micro back and use the fact that his... Actually, one cheeky thing you can do, your Ovolets probably aren't the most useful thing at this point. You can just send the Ovolets forward, and then the, Quads will be auto-attacking them on attack move. I think that's a pretty nifty move to try to soak up some of that incoming DPS. 15 Lyrilisks are coming. All right. Well, we know how this one ends. Game 1 is going to go to the way of George for sure. More successful than I expected him to be in that first fight. But there's no hope on this one. And the Ovoleth maneuver even ended up being deployed by Alexander, but a little bit too late to be useful as his hatch on the natural is going to go down, and his opponent is victorious. GG, probably called in voice, or maybe not. Who cares? It's practice for the hit 'em up event. You can't say GG, boys, but GG. What a beautiful Zerg game. We love Zerg games. All right. Let's get ready to rumble. And by that, I mean let's get into game 2. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be some massacres for you, and I say that not just because both players are a shade of red, so it's going to be a lot of red and a lot of blood as a result. Alexander is the red Zerg in the bottom right, and George is the maroon Zerg in the top left, and we will be seeing some Zerg versus Zerg today. I believe this replay is labeled Pool Massacre. Spoilers, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's exactly what we can foresee. Some gas being mined by both players, but Alexander elects to go pool first despite it. So it's not as fast as you could get with just mining minerals, but he's just going to go ahead and bank for a Kagrin after this and then go for his Larvos. So yeah, that's effectively what they're both doing here. George just a little bit slower. So while we wait for this particular match to heat up between these two, I will give you guys a little bit of a show match update. We do have show matches coming at the weekend here. This is being streamed to you all on the 22nd of January. And 24th and 25th will both be show match days. So that weekend is going to be fun. There's going to be a lot going on then. Hope you guys join us for that. The first show match of the Saturday, the 24th, is going to feature StarCraft 2 Pros. Milky Cow, Indy, and, wait for it, Young Yakov. So a Russian and Polish showdown there. Going to be interesting to see how those players have adapted, because Young Yakov is someone who participated in a show match versus Han Mono and Trigger way back in 25, while Milky Cow just recently played against Mixu for a show match 2 weeks ago. So he's got the most recent experience. Indy also played against Mixu, but back in 25 instead. So a little bit of a different story there. And our second show match is going to be with Han Mono as Terran versus StarCraft 2 pros Oya, Protoss, Ziki, Zerg. That'll be a fun one. Our last show match of the little stint there is going to be on Sunday, and it will feature Mixu again, as well as we have Spirit and Gerald, 2 newcomers to Cosmonarchy. They'll be playing against Mixu's Ascozy, if you can believe it. So that will be a very fun one. Hope you join us for that. And hope you watch as George is just about to ready to lose his Larvosk. Oh! It goes down immediately. Alexander happy to punish on that with just a couple of Zets. Always satisfying in ZVZ when you can get that kind of move done. Meanwhile, Alexander himself has double Larvosk, and instead of getting a second Larvosk, George has to remake his first. Straight into the Vornath afterwards. Going to be an interesting little story here for our Zerg players to tell. How is George going to try to come back from this point on? Well, I guess he's probably going to go for fast Lyrilisks again, and he is set up for an expansion, which he can afford 2 of if he really wants it. In fact, I wouldn't hate him putting down a macro hatch just because he lost the Larvosk early. He knows he's going to need that extra larva production. Alexander setting up for his own expand pretty soon means that this should be a much more comfortable game for him. For our homie, our Denthanor. I do feel like with the extra... let's see. The Zet's coming out. Okay. I was going to say, I wonder what he's going to use his extra larva for, because he could be making more workers to just try to get ahead on the economic game. I think fighting with Zeths is a recipe for not necessarily disaster. It's going to take a while for that to pay out dividends, and it's a little bit less ironclad than just making a lot of Droleth. But they say ZVZ is a knife fight in StarCraft 1. It's like that in Cosmonarchy, but it's like you got a bigger knife, or maybe you have like 6 knives instead of just 1, and they're all in various stages of sharpness and funness. Like if you think about like Counter-Strike knives have this reputation for being fun and satisfying to play around with, and I never really got that myself. I had something about it. I just hate microtransactions, so I never got it. But the bottom line is that's what people think about a lot of the time when they think about knives and gaming. And so, yeah, just think about that. You got a lot of fun, fancy knives to play around. All right. The Vorvs are already out, so this fight should be in George's favor here. But the quaz count is enough that I think Alexander is going to be okay. We see here the Zerg army is still in good strength for George. However, he does not pursue his opponent halfway across the map, and I think that's probably pretty good. George has only units for defense. He can't really afford to get hit up by a counterattack. If Zeth swam into his base at that point and his reinforcements weren't ready yet, you could see these units get popped pretty quickly. It looks like he's getting ready to make a bunch of Larvosk. He's got 400 gas. They both have 400 gas. What's going on here? Macro hatch for Alexander in his natural. Calcure Lake. Is it actually going to be Calcure Lake for both players? I felt like it for a second, but George maybe didn't have the minerals for it or something. He's thinking about what he wants to do. Larvosk? Larvosk. Okay. Well, he's a little bit slow with it, but he is getting them. Trying to think of like Romanian culture. What like if he was an Aussie, I could say that he's like doing a shoey or something with one hand, and that's why he can't play as well as he did in the last game. But I don't know, like what do Romanians do for fun? I guess like I don't know. My only context for Romanian as a friend, I had a Romanian friend who really liked eating bananas. He liked potassium. That's it. That's all I got. So I don't think he was representative. He liked making micro missions in StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. So George is making a micro mission instead of playing the game. That's the explanation there. He's got a lot of larvae. What's he going to use them for? Calculator Lake on the way for him as well, but Alexander definitely has the tech tempo and way more workers as well, it must be said. Going to be pretty hard for the economically disadvantaged Zerg here to compete. I feel like Alexander is going to be able to outflood him. Maybe George will do something crafty. Like, he is making Calculisks by the looks of things. He's queues up some Naths immediately. And if you are trying to be both harassment-oriented and maybe a little bit on the defensive side versus a horde of Zerg on the ground, Calculisks are pretty good at that. They can hold a lot of positions that you wouldn't necessarily immediately expect. That being said, the Lyralisk anti-air attack can deal with them. So, gotta factor that in as well. It is splash damage against air, and it does have 7 range. So the Calculisk will only ever be like trading blows with the Lyralisk. It will never be outranging them. Hatch at the 3 o'clock position for Alexander, taking his 3rd base, up by 18 workers, and thinking about moving forward. The Nathacores are not going to be long for this world. Yeah, immediately getting reposted. Only 3 calcs are going to be available for this fight, it looks like. Still, the horde of maroon Zeths on the left-hand side of this mineral wall here, and this is a dividing line, definitely working to keep the enemy at bay. And there's no focus fire onto those Calculists. George is actually breaking out of this position with some ease, some uncharacteristic ease, and immediately makes a ton of Vorvs, and he's got 24 Zeths on the way as well. He could conceivably just flood across the map and shut down the 3rd base, maybe even leverage the flying units that he's got under his retinue here to echo that 3rd. I think fighting in the choke is probably the worst way to try to go about that. Alexander definitely in a strugglesome attempt at attacking. But listen, he's got way better eco, 15 worker advantage, and he's trying to keep that around where that is. Maybe thinking about taking a 4th base at the same time. I saw his camera pan down towards that 6 o'clock area, but hasn't made the decision just yet. Mostly making a bunch of pool units. Neither player blinking on the pool, by the way. Everybody staying on pool tech here. I gotta say, I feel like eventually we are going to get to a point where we do like some wacky event or some specialty move where like we got like 4 Zerg players in one map and they just have to FFA it out. And it's like a 1v1 map too, and not even necessarily a 4-spawn map. Sort of like how the Biddy Birthday Bash was set up there. I think that could be pretty fun. I'm imagining everybody sticking on pool tech for a while. Well, it's going to be a little bit difficult for Alexander to step to his opponent. He doesn't have a critical mass of Lyralisks to deal with all of the Vorvs and stuff, but he also needs to do something about the Calcs, and he's not making his own. That's the other thing. Alexander could be making more units himself. He could be making Naths and Calcs. See if he can defeat his opponent that way. Macro hatch inside his main base, try to spend down his money. 14 Lyralisks on the way, not a bad idea. But look at his gas. He could go for tier 2. He could have gone for tier 2 for a while now. He's only even mining off of 1 Geyser in his 3rd base. And now we have some more Zerg units popping for George. No surprises there. He's really staying on 25 workers for some time. Not mining gas from the ridge in his main or his natural. And still has 700 gas. Very close to being able to afford tier 2 himself. But he ends up making a couple more Lyras. 14 Vorvs on the way for Alexander. 8 pairs of Quas. Bunch of Zets back at home. Cycling a couple of them over to see about that 3rd base. Sees nothing over there. Maybe 9 o'clock is something Alexander can go and investigate to confirm that he's got the eco advantage. A couple more drawlets have been made for George, but he's content to be pretty relaxed with it. They both have a lot of military units. 155 Zerg for Alexander. 89 for George. I think he'd be pretty scared of that army size in general. I love all of the different squadrons as well. Little gaggles of Zerg here and there. All that's missing is some on the smiley face or somewhere in that general area. And you've got pretty good map vision as he is going to end up confirming nothing at 9 pretty soon. Okay, George is just going to be committing to the Calculisk play. He's got a lot of Nathacores waiting to be turned into them. It's a lot of Vespene for that. But really, his limiting factor is actually minerals. And this is, again, despite not capping his ridges and not mining from them either. He's got a lot of workers just sitting here doing nothing as well. Could definitely use more saturation at both bases, but especially the natural for minerals. And double expanding is Alexander. He's got most of the bases on the map. He's got confirmation that there's nothing at 9. Took him a while to get to that point, but he does have it. So he should be feeling pretty good about himself here, adding the Hydrothen, adding the Zorkish Shroud, adding a bunch of extra bases. I am interested in seeing how the next fight goes, because the Calculus could still run roughshod over the army, but there's just so many Zerg here. Like, Alexander is approaching the point where he's going to be at the selection limit. He's eclipsed it in terms of raw numbers, but he is approaching that point. Let's find out. 10 Calculusks in the middle of all of this throng of death that we see before us. The Calculusks are the money makers. That's where all of the power is, and the Lyrilisks are actually focusing them down. So every single one of them is going to be collapsed upon, and I think this humongous concave, perfect surface area, I think George has been overwhelmed for good here. Dropping down to no military units at all. Even got a little dancer over there, and yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, you have to look at the aftermath. You have to be like, yep, this is Cosmonarchy. George can't believe it. Oh yeah, George does that thing where he lets his opponent kill most of his army, most of his base before he GGs. There it is. It's over, boys. Alexander posts a dub with 3,000 Vespines still in the tank, and apparently 3-Crow was obsing that match as well. All right, just like that. Another game won by a Zerg player. I can't believe it. More Zerg action coming up. What's up, Milestone? Blood for the Blood God? Yeah, that's pretty correct there. They want the 5th race so bad that they're trying to summon them with ungodly amounts of blood. Problem is the blood summon don't like Zerg, so it's actually counterproductive, and it's making it take longer. In fact, if you really wanted to summon the blood summon, you would play Terran and Protoss. Game 3 between Alexander and George is now live on your screens. George is our light olive Zerg in the top right of Acid Test, and Alexander is in the bottom right as the Alice Blue. No, Arrow. Arrows Zerg. Arrows. Interesting. This one is called Acid Choke. I don't know if that's because somebody choked, or if it's because a choke point on Acid Test has resulted in a whole lot of value for one player or another. Oh my god.
BLOODSUMMON love Zerg when they die, though.
Oh, well, thank you for the $15. And no, I don't know why the text-to-speech voice can't put 2 words together and say blood summon. They have to say, they have to spell it out for us, I guess. Whatever. Blood summon love Zerg when they die, though. They are satisfied with the fact that they are dead, but they have no use for the body, you know? It's like dumpster diving for scraps or whatever. That's the equivalent there. Just saying. Just saying. Alexander, are you thinking about going for... Oh, okay, no. He's double Larvosk before pool. Well, I guess he has pool money now, but he is going to be making a pool at some point. There it is. And his gas is being mined for the second Larvosk. He's showing Grass Eater how to do it. Meanwhile, it's Kegroup pool Larvosk for George. Maybe it was just full pool first. I actually don't remember. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this like pool Larvosk build that creeps the Kegra towards the ramp, and like where do people go with that? I know people enjoy that. That used to be a strategy from Hit 'em Up way back, where it was double Larvosk first, and this one's modified to include the pool earlier, which I think is safer, but we'll just have to wait and see for now. George has enough money for an expansion. Will he take it? I don't think the answer is yes yet. Maybe it's just like against his personal belief system to go after the ridge mining. You know, I don't know if I've seen him mine route from the ridge. We'll have a lot of opportunity to assess that, though, because we got more after this. If you thought this was the end, this is just the end of the first set of games. Then there's another triple, and one of them is an Ascozy match, but everything else is ZVZ. And then after that, as we do have George's expansion coming up here, There are 5 games and then 1 more at the very end. So 6, what is that, 9 more games after this? Yeah, a total of 12 matches between these two. We'll see if we get through them. We'll see. By the way, we do have that expansion coming with a very fast Hydrith for Alexander. He's changing it up now and going for his own expo, although it will take some time. The double Larvosk is coming, or is already on the way here for George. Do we have any more production for our Arrow Zerg? It looks like the answer is no. Not quite able to stutter step correctly to clear those Zets, but I guess they get popped after that. I feel like with the way that... Oh, okay. It's a very fast ski back. So I guess it's probably Mass Bactyl pretty early on. Let's think about it, though. Because these two, you know, they spit on the meta. They say, fuck the meta. That's what Alexander said. He spit on the meta. So if that's the case, could we see fast skiffs? I don't know. If you allow me to dream, I'm going to dream big. In many ways, Cosmonarchy is the byproduct of dreams. So, just saying. Funnily enough, Lyrilisks are pretty okay at dealing with skiff masses. I have a feeling we're just going to see the Bactyl. But if we get Bactylisks, Vorvs can deal with them. It is a possibility. I could easily see it. Spend your larva, says Godwheat. Go, go! I can't believe he's trying to coach George. The larva! He's like, all right, yeah, whatever. I got this strange Canadian man to stop yelling at me, and I'll make a bunch of claws. It is true. It is true. You must spend your larva. The Zethacor is dispatched. Scout what's happening on the other side of the map. By the way, this is the updated version of Acid Test with the high ground at 3 o'clock and the inner 9 having 4 ridges and the temples being removed from the 11 and 7 o'clock-ish areas. I think that's neat. We'll see if it lends very well to anything else. I have a feeling with all of the pool units that they both end up making, Alexander going Hydrith is probably going to be a shocker. Like, he's got a couple of Ski-Backed and a couple of Hydra. He's going to need some more than that, and he is making some more than that, but... Like, what will George do? Will George be like, oh, you can make more units than that? Oh, wait, what's George doing? Hold on. Hold the phone. Oh! George is also not going to stick with Pool. No way! They're both betraying what they all know and love. What made them the two Zergs that you saw in the last 2 matches. Turning their back on Pool only. I mean, you know me, guys. I like to not even bother harvesting Vespian most of the time. I did play a game against Grass Eater that was absolutely demented yesterday, and that was pretty good. Macro hatch for Alexander. I like that Alexander does the macro hatch thing. I feel like more Zergs do need to do that. So it's very, very nice to see that. Now, one thing on Acid Test you really don't want to do is get contained into your natural. This choke point sucks for your army. You really got to get out around it and see if you can do a surround. And George is not really playing to that victory condition just yet. In fact, he's kind of staying back and hoping that, just like on Near Impact, Alexander will end up walking into death. We'll see. Maybe that is the case. Nathacors are out already, but he's not able to turn them into Cockalisks yet. The Bactylisks are raining hellfire down upon them in the form of acid, and that might be more than enough to clear this out. Let's see. Maybe this is the acid choke that the replay is named after. Aziracor's not quite able to get into the mix of things. Now we have it show up, but the Quas focus it down immediately. Do we have any more units coming? 11 pairs of Zets just now got started. Only 1 Lake is coming. We see the Aziracor's trying to get to that back line, not quite able to, and it does look like the army will be beaten back, but that was really costly if you look at the number of units lost. Alexander has a better economy yet again. Has forced out a lot more actual units from his opponent. And he can now fall back and maybe see if he can make enough crowd control to deal with the incoming attack. He doesn't have Lakers of his own. Alexander dancing back and forth, seeing what he can do. Finally. Shuts that Lyrilisc up. Loses a Bactylisk for his troubles. Only one pair of Nats on the way here for George. He could definitely be making more than that. 11 Lyrilisks is going to be up and running next. Alexander has snuck a base at 4 o'clock, so another macro hatch being added at this point in the game as well. Feels like he's in control of the larva count. I've only been playing for a week or so. I'll be Zerg number 1, says George. I would love to see it. Alex, I destroy you. Oh, and Alex says, heck yeah. He agrees that George will destroy him. You heard it here first. All right. We do have some gas cap happening over here, but is he only mining off the geyser with one guy? Yeah, so far that is the case. Will Alexander require extra Vespine? I feel like a Zerg you always do. He's going to start adding a little bit more oomph to that as he ends up fully saturating it. Still hasn't gotten any workers out to the 4 o'clock. He doesn't want to reveal that it's there yet and doesn't realize George has left the building. A lot of Vizier cores and a lot of quas are being made behind this push. Alexander trying his best to take a more offensive status, more offensive stature, but the Lyrilisks and the Lakers are going to be way too powerful, I feel like, for this attack to work out for Alex. He's got no detection. Bactyls are pretty good against the Lakers if you can see them, which currently he cannot. His Azira cores struggling to make it through. Maybe the Bactylisks alone will be able to break through everything. The Calculisks almost immediately getting bopped down as they finish, but now the Zets are on top. Oh, the Zets are on top. Alexander looked away for 1 second and, well, many seconds actually. It's been about 10 seconds, and then now he sees that everything is dead. Everything he knows and loves. He did clear the calcs, so at least he doesn't have to worry about all of his workers dying immediately. But he has no more Bactylisks behind that. He's now going to go ahead and queue up a bunch of Hydra. Maybe he whittled down the attack. Is this like a tug of war game, you know, like where one side moves all the way to the other side, kills a bunch of units, and then the other side comes back down and kills a bunch of units, and then they just rinse and repeat? It looks like Alexander wants to get ahead of that. As more calcs are being made, more Lyrilisks are being made. The Lakers have definitely paid for themselves. We got 750 damage on 2 of them. Yeah, we're at 1,800 damage and change. No gas mining just yet at the 3rd base. Alexander going to fix that shortly, I'm certain of it. And maybe get some static defense set up here. Or he's going to go for base number 4. There you go. 7 o'clock will be his. Same time as the 3rd base is coming for George. He's just 1 base behind. That's it, guys. But same idea. More Lake is on the way. More Vorvs as well. My look at this army right now is, you know, positioning ain't mattering too much. But when the Bactyls get engaged upon by Zeths and Vorvs, their damage just falls off a cliff. They need to engage at range because their projectile gains more bounces the more range it travels. So if it doesn't travel much range at all, like it's in a melee range or shorter, then, you know, say like 4 range or so. I think it's every 4 range they get a bounce. You are in tough pickles. Oh, always room for some Christmas pud. Pudding? Is that what that is supposed to be? Christmas pudding? I haven't had pudding in so long, dude. Slap fight. Vorv doesn't do much damage and the Quaz is ensnared. Oh dear. There's more Lakes where that came from, and Alexander is still not bringing any Ovoleths. Does he even know about the Lakes? Because it's not like George has shown that he's got access to Lakes tech. Now the Zorkis, or the Zorius will be seen, and then he can know that just kind of intuitively. He does spot out the extra base, though. And he should have seen all the spines then. Still no Ovoleths in the production tab, though. Maybe the idea is to force George out of the hidey hole? Yeah, down that hatch will go. There's no hope there. You know what these games remind me of more than anything is that I do need to, at some point, make a couple variants for the attack hit sound from the Zeth and the attack fire sound from the Quaz, so that I can, so that they don't play the same sound file each time and then kind of interrupt each other. It'll sound like an appropriate cacophony of, you know, just, it'll be good. It'll be correct. Lake is stepping forward, ahead of the choke point this time around. This offers up more surface area if Alexander wants to go for the surround. He's got some backdolls here. I'm liking his odds in this position. The Zeths and the Vorvs are not able to engage as the Iziracors come in swinging. Again, there's no Avaleth for detection, so that the Lakers will indeed be able to mulch a lot of the pool units, but the Hydrith units can actually stay alive for longer. And those Iziracors in particular are just not going down. The Bactylisks are able to clear the air. Zorius on the lower end, you can see this little flank of George's army is pushing through the south. Now the Bactyls are in trouble. They do need to retreat and take a couple of fighting flights, but we have more reinforcements coming in for Alexander. It's just a whole buttload of Quaz, and they're just being fed to the wolves. The lake is shaped wolves as the Bactyls and Hydras are overwhelmed by Rillarokors and Zorius. It feels like Alexander has a lot of potential value in his army. He definitely had a better surround in that particular situation, but the Lakers keep biting him. He just does not bring detection. His Bactyls could help him take care of that, if only he had the detection necessary. Base number 4 is up and running, but doesn't have many miners actually going at it there. Only one Ridge miner over here in the 3rd base, and he's making some Tetzoracors. That can definitely help out. And they can stay alive a little bit longer thanks to their Saber Siphon, but I'm still a little bit worried for him. I feel like the Zorius and the Vorvs combining with the Armor Rends going to be pretty significant. Villia saying the gas float. Yeah, from both players. What's tier 2? We're stuck on tier 1. Gentleman's agreement. Needs to get some more Drolith over here to the 4th base, I think. George has been shut down to 2, though. But keep that in mind. He's going to need to trade really cost efficiently if he wants to deal with that deficit. Hydrith then coming up and an Ulgorg mutation. Alexander should still win, just kind of like the last game. Oh, no. Absolutely devastated. Hi. Hello. What's up? Not much. But tier 2 is starting! Oh, shit! There you go. Absolutely devastated. 2 o'clock open for business. And we will see Zerg tier 2. It is not a myth, no matter what Hit 'em Up says. Base number 5 coming up. No gas being mined over here. Why would you need it? You just need the minerals, dude. Gas is a useless resource. All it does is give me tier 2. Ultra Core is coming up. George adds a lot of Hydras as well. Spending down that money. Still needs to take an extra base. Actually needs to take like several extra bases. Zorius have been assembled. Tetzoracors as well. Do we have any detection coming? Don't say tier 2. The Iral Iris does detect. It is a detector. That's not what I mean, and you know it. No mobile detection for Alexander. So Ultra Cores are one thing. Gorga Cores coming are another. But the Lakers could still be very efficient defensively. Now, George is far enough forward that I have a feeling we could end up seeing a total disaster befall him. I feel like Alexander could end up just moving across the map and surrounding him or bypassing his army entirely. But the Vorv Strike. The Vorv Strike is actually kind of legit here. Clears out the defensive Quaz and starts going after the workers. Alexander decides to hell with it. I'm going to charge forward. This is where the Lakers can really beat him in the butt. But we do have them on the front line with no real support, so they're going to get stood on top of. At least one Lakers should go down, indeed it does. Tetzoracor is helping to clear out the skies of the Gorgs. The Ultra Cores are staying alive for a very long time. Wow, the Ultra Cores might not die at all. Finally, one of them does end up falling. The Lakers count. It's dwindling. I don't like what I'm seeing here, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander looks like he's on the precipice of breaking through, but the Vorps come back from attacking the third base. The fourth base, actually, and then instead try to go for a flank. That pulls the melee away from the front line, but Alexander has still broken through and annihilated all of what George has to offer. Military, he's got 10 units, and most of them are just kind of scattered about doing not much of anything. This is Alexander's time to break through. To hell with your extra claws. You have been overwhelmed. The Iziricors, the Hydras, the Teths, and even the Zoryus will be more than enough to clear through all of those claws. Down goes the hatch. The ramp is next, and not much of consequences outside this particular position for George. So much Vespene. So few minerals. And such little hope. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have a winner. Alexander is going to push on forward. Claim the better of this particular set. I don't know what it actually looked like overall, but obviously many, many games were played. And there it is. Either no GG or GG in voice. We're not sure. We're never quite sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure George doesn't say GG in voice, but he's just like, I think you lost, or whatever. That's pretty good. All right. We're going to be checking out a couple more games between those two. I feel like we've got the time to do so. Looks like we have the same game version, if I am not mistaken, for these. According to my notes, anyway. So that's good. I am, however, going to take a moment to use the restroom. So I will be back in time to watch some more of this stuff. And we have one Ascozy game and then back to Zerg versus Zerg. So I hope you guys are going to be staying tuned and primed for it. Odd lobbies are nothing compared to that VC. He's just Sun Tzuing you people. Don't believe him. Ribbing, ribbiting, fraudigging. That's true. That's very true. All right, we'll be back. I'm going to put the timer on for like 3 minutes. I'll be back real quick. I have returned, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are having a good time so far on the stream. I'm feeling like it's been a fun time, for sure. And I am genuinely interested in where this Ascozy game goes, so let's take to it. I believe we are on a map called Germination. I did not update the map overlay for the acid test game. I thought about it in the middle of casting it, and then I was like, well, I guess I'll wait for some downtime. And then downtime did come, but I did not remember it that much. Let's do it, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our George versus Alexander deep dive. Now on to our second chunk of games that were submitted. And it starts off with some Alexander Ascozy. He is the Magma Ascozy player in the top left, going for a very fast Radix. And George is in the bottom right as the green Zerg, going for a very fast nothing in particular. I'm guessing it's going to be a pool into a Larvos, judging by his resource allocation. Let's see what he wants to do with that guy. Yeah, get him. Now, these games were played on separate days, I believe. So this is like the first chunk of games that they played that day. And then later on, there was like 5 more that got submitted on the same day or something crazy. So they just play a lot of Cosmonarchy. They just play a lot of Cosmonarchy against each other. It's very cool. It's nice to see. We'll be watching their careers with great interest. That's for sure. I have a feeling that with all of the hubbub between their Zerg versus Zerg matches, we haven't really gotten a chance to see what Alexander's Ascozy play looks like. And at the same time, we don't really necessarily know what George looks like when he plays against Ascozy, how his playstyle changes. I'm noticing a faster pool. I wonder if that's in reaction to a little bit more of an aggressive style from Alexander. Maybe he sends his first couple of units over there really quickly or something, right? There is, of course, that 6 Radix build floating around where it takes a little bit longer on the current patch to deal with it. But we obviously have a lot of gameplay going on where people are still going for like instant Radix and then Proselyte missionary combo. And there's room for that to be, play out in something that's kind of scary. But it probably only works at a lower level of competition if I had to speculate somewhat blindly. That being said, Quas are already out. The Pilgrim, the Missionary will take the first scout and then need to cycle back, but Alexander just offers it up. He's like, yeah, whatever, you can have that one, dude. Landlock on the way for the expansion, though. So this is sort of like a false aggression, right? Like, I'm going to send my first military unit at you. And then ideally he keeps it alive and he can kind of dance around and see what's going on, monitor the situation. George immediately going for the Hydrith Den, doesn't want to stay on pool for too long versus the Ascozy, and I understand why. If you're going up against either Roves or Missionaries in the early game, you probably want to tech up out of that situation. Getting the Ascozy involved here is pretty good. I am very appreciative of the fact that we have that extra race in the game. I feel like just having more options in terms of the raw number of matchups that you have, it opens up so many interesting avenues for finding new things to experience and to enjoy. And, there's going to be a race that plays differently than Terran, Zerg, or Protoss do. And you're not even going to realize that, like, the race that you thought was your favorite is actually now your second favorite because this race plays in a more fun way for you, right? And so I think that kind of thing is cool. I'm appreciative of it. I also really appreciate that we even have a pro player, Mixu, who's going to be changing from Zerg to Ascozy for a forthcoming show match. I think that's going to be a very fun time indeed. I hope you guys join us for that. We are adding more and more Ascozy units over time as well. We just recently added the Tier 2 mech, with the exception of the Zonguard, which is the final unit that needs to be added for them. In the same way that the Paraclete needs to be added for the Ascozy Astrolabe, the Tier 2 Air. But their Tier 2 is mostly complete as it currently stands. And with any luck, we'll have some of their Tier 3 stuff online by the end of the month so that we can really see what they have to offer. One of the Radix is missing a rally point here as Alexander continues to slam out the Pilgrims, get some more action done there. Trying to get up his macro advantage, but George is coming back into it. with 4 workers on the way. And he's already got Bactyl tech. He's unlocking those, seeing what he can do there. Cypher is incoming. So I think Alexander might be trying to tech up, but I'm not entirely sure about that one. And this is probably before the Tier 2 air was in. Maybe instead of teching up, he's just going to go, you know, Vicar Mimic or something like that. That's a possibility. But let's see. I mean, the Cypher's done now, so we'll have an opportunity to check it out. 18 missionaries moving across the map to spread the word across the world. However, there are some Zerg here waiting for them. I think George is fine, especially since he's got 8 more Hydras in production. As long as he doesn't turn a bunch of his units into, you know, the mutations, right? He doesn't mutate a bunch of his Hydras into Bactyls right now. I think he'll be fine. Iziracore is also on the way. And then he'll probably go for a round of Droleth. There it is! Proscenium's on the way, so Tier 2 Bio instead of anything else with that Cypher as of right now. Tethith Swamp has been queued up for George behind this, and the Bactyls make it kind of difficult, I think, for the missionaries, but he's still just going to be annoying in his opponent's face and see what he can do from there. A couple Vicars on the way. They do take a bit of a time to get to where they need to go. Here's a funny little tactic for you. Vicar in the lead pulls the Vicar that's in the back. That Vicar gets sped up from impact dissipation, moves forward, pulls another Vicar, and they just do a daisy chain to move there faster. It's like a really APM-intensive stim pack across the map. Minus the, you know, attack speed increase, of course. And instead of costing health, it gives you health. Not that that matters when you just came out of the structure. But there's some movement speed tech for you. Arch is on the way for Alexander's capping his Ridge and his main and natural at the same time, and we will end up seeing those Prosceniums finish up. Looks like he's gearing up for a third base, but his mineral harvesting is very, very under strength here in the natural. Contrast that to the oversaturated main base. He's got, he could definitely send like 6 pilgrims out of the main into the nat and have a better economy. Aphorists are on the way for their splash damage. Very good versus unarmored targets. Going to be a little bit less effective against Hydras and a lot of bit less effective against Teths and Iziracores, but we'll see how it goes, because the Tetzoricore at this point no longer has its armor pen on the secondary attack, and so we will end up seeing that just have a little bit less impact going into these fights. A Cosmoscope is on the way for Alexander. He wants that Tier 1 Air Force. I'm not quite sure for what. Maybe Inkblot, thinking that it might be a Lakis-based army. I still think you could probably hijack the Teths. I think that it's like a legit thing like that you can do to try to turn the tide over against your opponent. Not something that has been experimented with too much. As long as the Vicars are fighting from a far enough distance, the Tetzoricores can't really hurt them. But look, now they're all clumped up. The Teths are going to have a field day with that, with their damage. Diving forward where the Bactylists can. Nothing is there to engage in the back line. The missionaries are not stepping forward into the firing squad of the Bactyls, and so this is going to force the Ascozi army to fall away. A low APM retreat there. Alexander's a lot of money in the bank for both minerals and gas, but especially minerals. And his Prosceniums are idle. In fact, where are the units that he made out of the Proscenium? I am not seeing them. I am not Proscenioing them. Did he just cancel them? Am I crazy? Maybe he had them in the army and they blew up. I didn't notice. I swear he was making the Aphorists. He must have canceled them. Vestiaria on the way. That's going to allow him to get the door in and out. Cosmoscope is coming up online finally, and we'll see what Alexander wants to do from there. The game before this, George made 10 trillion Lakes. So this game, I wanted Inkblots, according to Alexander in the chat. There you go. Dog saying the Vicar needs more incentive to use their active. I think players just need to do it. When they do it, they see pretty good value from it. Base number 4 going to be coming up here for Alexander. Still a little bit slow to saturate these mineral lines. His natural hasn't actually seen much more saturation, believe it or not. More Prosceniums, more Radixes on the way here. Pumping out nothing but missionaries, and then the Aphorists. I think he needs... You know what would be really helpful for him? Is he's getting the conduit as well. The Visiri is almost complete. What would be really helpful, I think, is at this point go after the avatar for the armor end. It is implemented by this point in the patch history. A couple more Aphorists leaving the building as more construction is completing for the Escozi. Doranins are on the way now. Alexander trying to get some chunkiness in that mid-game fight. We haven't seen the Doranin in a cast, I don't think. I think maybe we saw them be made at one point in the tournament, the Hitemapash, but I'm not entirely convinced about that. They do a melee splash attack, not unlike the Tetzoricor. And they also have impact dissipation, which is where you take damage and then you start healing and moving faster. Those ink blots for detection are indeed on the way. And I really want to see somebody try to use the ink blots to hijack Tetzoricors. Avatars are probably a little bit better at it just because they do better with a variety of other things. There's the Doranins. They take a bit more firepower to bring down, but they are more expensive, so I don't really want to immediately jump to the conclusion that you should be doing that. But if you already have them for the armor end, then you might as well. A lot more Bactyls are being made, as well as some Tetzoricors. This is a pretty spooky army that George has, but he's elected to go with less numbers. So his opponent should still be able to run roughshod over him. You can see the Doranin staying alive for a very long time, despite all that concentrated fire. The armor working out wonderfully versus the Bactylisks, and all of the Tetzoricors have been eaten alive in the process, just about every single one of them falling. 4 more just got made. The Mimics are sacrificed at the altar of the Blood God, and I think the Vicars are going to be more than sufficient at clearing the rest of this. A couple of those Tets are starting to come out, though. That can really start splintering off here. You can see the Focus Fire trying to deal with them, and Alexander has indeed ended up capitulating in a head-to-head fight. Escozi do struggle with those head-to-head fights. I know I say it all the time, but could definitely get some more of those workers at the 12 o'clock. We need some more units out in the meanwhile. Vicars coming out en masse. Aphorists as well. A lot of crowd control. More Prosceniums on the way. I think we need to see a couple more Doranin to try to keep the Tetzoricors away from the front line or the back line for a little bit. And also be, in the middle of the Bactyls. They take a hit and then they start really closing the gap in a big way. But still, it looks like this is enough. Down it all goes. Zerg army traded, making a lot more Bactyls where that came from. And I don't think that George has the greatest composition against what his opponent has been fielding. But then again, I mean, these units are kind of hot off the presses. I don't know that too many people are going to be instantly making the right compositional choices here. But Alexander also has a superior economy. That's kind of what it's required if you want to try to win head-to-head fights with Escozi units. Is like, okay, I just need way more than my opponent. And you saw even with way more than my opponent in terms of numbers there, the Escozi did struggle to get over the line versus a smaller Zerg army. So even Zerg are able to deal a little bit better with head-on fights. That being said, the harassment potential of Escozi units is certainly higher. A lot of Doranin are on the way. He's got a lot of Prosceniums, it must be said. The mass expansions are definitely giving him a big leg up in this game because it's just kind of like a steady, like, slamming out the macro. I think Alexander probably macros better as a non-Zerg, to be honest. Missionary even clears the Droleth, trying to expand at 6 o'clock. George is looking kind of dire here. The Inkblot spying on his third base. He's shooed away by the Bactyl. Doranins are ready to take to the front lines here. And there isn't much. Honestly, the army is split. George is busy trying to deal with that Inkblot off to the side instead of actually taking a position on his ramp. He's allowed the Escozi to get right on top of him. And now the Doranin focusing down those poor Tetzoricors. And that's going to have to be it. The whole rest of the army is dead and wiped. And George He's making a lot of Isuricors and Hydras, but he does not have... He has one military unit done right now. And what is coming is not going to change that. Alexander is doing well to not even look at his army right now and instead, macro out. He's got a lot of pilgrims ready to saturate top right. He's got over 100 workers. This is what we need to see out of him, man. And, George is in his stance. Oh, look. An ink-blotted Droleth. That's a good way to get your opponent to leave the game, honestly. All right. The dub posting continues as Alexander has taken the Ascozi game. But we go right back to ZVZ after this. Let's see what comes next. Got him. Yes. Literally got him. Got his Droleth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with some Zerg versus Zerg action. Alexander versus George. We casted 3 of these already, and we know how they go. Alexander likes to get a better eco, but he typically ends up losing fights even with more units, which isn't so bad if you can eventually stamp out your opponent for not scaling their economy. But I don't know. George is just kind of a savant with those fights sometimes. We'll see what he ends up doing here as he's banking some money to make his pool faster than that of his opponent, but only by a little bit. Alexander is the Sunglow Zerg in the bottom right. Where's that pool, Alexander? It's to Kagrin first. Okay, he's going to make the pool later. George in the top left is the Zinwaldite Brown. No, it was Dark Bronze. Dark Bronze Zerg. Cozy kicks ass. Well, Iron, I'm glad you think so. We were just casting the Ascozi match that Alexander won out over George. It was a pretty cool matchup, but definitely something where you got to hand a lot to the fact that Alexander scaled his economy without any contest. You know what I mean? Oh, what's up, Thunderslaps? I'll never post a replay again. I hope you do post many replays, Thunderslaps. You just got to actually watch it. You know what I mean? Not whatever you think you did. Also, I don't even... Oh.
George clicks buttons instead of using hotkeys and beats me. KMs. So over.
I can believe with his APM that he's actively clicking on the buttons on the screen with his mouse. That does sound about right. And you know what's best is George only recently got a chance to stream his gameplay, like yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. And so Alexander probably didn't know that he was mouse clicking this entire time. And then he's like, wait, I've been losing to you and you're just mouse clicking? Pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. And Vilius asking about Alexander, when is he going to be class 3? Well, I think Alexander could very well make it to class 3. In fact, I kind of feel like anybody could make it to class 3, which is not to diss Alexander. I just mean like in general. It's not like it's like when you see somebody who's like bronze in another game's ranking, like a bronze StarCraft 2 player or an F rank StarCraft 1 player. Like you could actually make it out of there. It doesn't take that much effort to improve a little bit. And it's funny that you mentioned Jimmy, Vilius. I think Jimmy actually is in the same state, the same sort of situation as Alexander is, which is that sometimes I see them play, both of these players play to the level of a class 3. I see them macro well, I see them make a lot of units, I see them expand a lot, I see them do pretty good stuff. And then usually when they get a little bit heckled by someone of a class 3 level who's a little bit more proactive, they fall to pieces a little bit more. Now, I think that's a little bit more true of Jimmy than it is for Alexander, but I would say the variance in the level of play is so wide, and more often than not, they're not playing to the level of a class 3. But I will say yet at the end of that sentence, because I do think that anyone can be a class 3 player at minimum, and I do think that we will end up seeing Alexander eventually make it up to class 3. And we'll probably even see George make it up to class 3, you know? In the same way that I looked at Thunderslaps and I was like, damn, dude, this guy's got a lot of potential. If he irons that stuff out, he's class 2 material easy. Which, spoiler alert, is why he was invited to participate in the 4th Tribunal. So we will see if he ends up accepting that invite. In fact, he might have already accepted that invite. Let me go and double check. Oh, no, it doesn't look like it. I don't have his sign up in here. But he was invited to participate in that because I do think that he is top of class 3. Now that might be a little over. Yeah, I might be over egging the pudding. I might not be correct about that. You know, it's easy to be class 3. You just need a ratatouille. Yeah, somebody to push the buttons and stuff. Somebody to tell you which buttons to push, which things to make. Yeah, I guess a lot of it is kind of decision making, isn't it? I can see some value in such a statement there. Sir Dog. Right about now, Alexander's been making a lot of Hydrith units, both the Hydralisk and the Iziracore, and there's been Vorvs and Quas being made by George. Neither Zerg player expanding as of yet. Alexander changing that right here, right now. I think that's off by 1. I think it needs to be down by 1. Doesn't it look like it? Just visibly? Pretty sure. Ratatouille, but the critic is a Korean tasting 6 Radix for the first time. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Batman. So, can somebody tell me why Alexander's army went all the way over here to 10 o'clock? Does anybody know? 1 Vorv scouts the whole thing. What's up, dude? Well, we don't have the Calcure Lake yet, but we do have Hydras on the way for George. Clearly, he wants the ski backed at some point, but his Hydra count is enough that he should actually be able to step to what Alexander is making. You know, just have a little bit of firepower to cleave through the Iziracores, which is kind of the main thing that you got to worry about here. I misclicked on map, that's why? Yeah, that makes sense. Dog lived in the chat. What's up, dude? The 1 Vorv does end up getting... Oh! Snap! Why is... What? Okay. He lives to tell the tale, boys. He's going to go aggro that 1 Zepticor and they'll fight to the death. Oh, JK. Now he's moving over in the middle. Still no attack move from Alexander. Hasn't learned that move yet. But... 10 Droleth coming for him. He's going to have a monstrous economy compared to his opponent. Still is not expanded. Now, if George can survive this first attack with enough military units still left alive, we'll be in business. We could talk about a comeback. But he's just drip feeding into the ranged units of Alexander, and there's something about Hydras killing Zeths that always looks so cinematic. Now, George's own mid-range units are starting to engage. Most of the front line is already dead for Alexander's side. It's completely dead for George's, though, and this looks like a real quick one. I say that every time Alexander finds a way to extend the game plan by a few minutes here, but he does have way better eco. However, he has no immediate reinforcements ready to go. So this extension here by him is probably going to be swiftly punished by all the Hydras. Maybe that Iziracore will end up going down. Making more Hydras where that came from. So George can't really move across the map and finish the job there. Again, he needed to win really hard in that fight, and he probably would have done a lot better had he been able to set up for his Zeth and Vorv front line to engage all at the same time instead of drip feeding past his Hydras. But that's what happens when you're simultaneously trying to break out of your choke point and also attack an army. Like, you can't move through your choke, through this funnel, and then deal with that kind of thing. Unfortunately, Alexander is offering up free Hydras for anyone who wants them. Oh, this might actually provoke George forward in, again, a similar sort of drip feed way, but he does end up abating at the last moment. Base number 3. Yeah, see, base number 3 is definitely more on the money. You see that? It's not one off. This is one off. You're losing so many minerals from that. I wish I knew a little bit of Korean so I could, like, talk about this hatch placement dishonors my family. That's what I would say about that, you know? Dishonors my lineage. Maybe I can try to translate that for you guys. Hold on. Doo-doo-doo-doo. No, there's no way I can say that. Unfortunately, they don't actually give you, like, the phonetic pronunciations anymore, and I wonder why. They used to do that, and then I could maybe try to butcher it, but I can't even say it back to you guys, sorry. I'll write it in the chat though. That's for sure. No idea if it's actually correct. This hatchery arrangement is an insult to my bloodline. That's apparently what it translates back to. So. Good moves. Good moves. Arrangement is not really the right word for it, but I think the rest is all correct. Now, Alexander has gone for a Vornath and a Skibact at the same time. Clearly wants to upgrade his front line and his back line. But George is in a nice little concave as long as he actually engages with the Hydras. Should be good. Clearing out the initial round of frontline units. Doesn't really feel like Alexander has a lot of frontliners himself, and he's a bit of a discordant attack. Well, here comes all the Hydras from his side, though, and now this is when he should start to beat back what George has. 8 more Hydras in production. Reinforcements off the rally. Need to start getting into it. I think it's too late, though. I think Alexander's fought back. They've just upgraded from Pool Wars to Den Wars, and it's just Hydra on Hydra violence all the time. 21 Hydras. A little bit falling down here and there, but I think George has been overwhelmed. What a disaster. It is over for our Georger. And that is another Alexander dub. He just keeps cranking them out, dude. Can you believe it? I can believe it. I forgot to update the overlay, though, so... That's just unfortunate. That's all right. That game could have been a mess. That didn't need to. That didn't need to be on the list. Okay, we are moving to the same map, Patadia. Nice. Now I can update it and it'll be for real. Very nice color for George. Do it. Fresh off a very bloody Patadia match, George is going to be our Cyan Zerg in the top left, Necron's favorite color. And down in the bottom right, Alexander is the... Well, he's not just regular purple, but he's not Tyrion purple, so I'm going to say he's the Palatinate purple Zerg in the bottom right. Isn't it funny how that works? It's a slightly darker than usual purple, and I like that. I think that's a cool color. By the way, if we ever decide to try to make a race that's mostly purples, I hope by that point we've defeated the limited color palette, because goodness, the number of purples you have is very limited. Villia says, George would have won the last game if he had 500 Haraka. Thanks. Alexander is going for the Larvosk into Pool, or Kagrin Pool Larvosk type build, type beat. There's actually no place to put your Pool back here. This is BDB's final insult to Zerg players. Sort of a similar build over here going on for George, but his Pool is faster. It's Pool and then Kagrin, it looks like. At a similar timing. I still can't believe George just clicks the buttons. Isn't that outrageous? Many Droleth. I have a feeling that this game is going to feature Hydras. And it's because the file name of the replay was called Holy Hydra. So, make of that what you will, I suppose. Right about now, I'm also expecting there to be... This is one of those games that will go a little bit longer. I have no real reason to believe that, but surely if they're both making Hydras, it will last longer than 10 minutes. Though I thought that the last game. George just doesn't really like to expand, it seems. So Alexander can play a little bit more macro-oriented. Maybe that's correct placement, actually. It's 2 games in a row where it's looked a little off. Maybe what's incorrect placement is BDB's tiles. That is a possibility. If you're not familiar with this map, Patadia, it is a map by BDB. Second Larvosk for George. maybe thinking about an expansion. He does have a lot of money. But that never stopped him from before, you know. Let's see, he's sending the guy out. Somebody once told me that if you use a Droleth with minerals in it to make a hatch, it should be a 5 mineral discount. Or, you know, whatever your mineral discount is, you know what I mean? Like 8 mineral discount in StarCraft 1. I don't know about that one, buddy. But at least Alexander has his expansion coming up faster than a speeding bullet, you know? Faster than the last time. By the way, since I think, Alexander was asking about when his TVZ is going to be cast. I don't actually have a... Oh, no, I do. I have one TVZ game, and it is in the set that follows this one. It has 5 games. So maybe that explains it. Maybe that tells you what you need to know, sir. Absolutely bamboozled by Quaz. Alexander defending his natural. The first player to make a Hydrith Den was Alexander. George is not yet actuating his own, as it is not finished, but 5 Hydras are on the way for our Palatinate Purple Zerg, and I have a feeling, sneaking suspicion, that we are going to have a wonderful time. Have a wonderful time casting a lot of Hydra deaths. And a lot of Hydra kills. You know what I mean? For one to die in Cosmonarchy, someone had to kill it. Biddy was suggesting a bountied version of Omnipresence where it gives you a randomly selected tech path from each race. So, like, it would randomly select Bio from Ascozi or Terran, or both, you know? Like, it would have to select between the tech branches. And, of course, you'd have infrastructure as default. What I think it would be kind of funny if you... I have no basis for whether or not this would be implementable, right? So I'm just living in a magical reality where we can implement whatever we want, which is not currently true. But let's think about, like, a game where when you load in, you select a race, and that race is going to be the infrastructure race. So you can select Zerg, you'll get, like, the infrastructure branch of Zerg. Avaleth, Kagrant, Larvosk, etc. Hatch, whatever. And then, if you select... regardless of what you select for that, your spammy, power, and air branches are all going to be randomized. So you've got, you know, you randomly get Protoss Disciple and Terran Mech and Ascozi Air. So you have to build all that stuff, but you're like, you can train whatever those units are from a hatch. I don't know. There's something like that could be kind of funny. It's very complicated to try to implement something like that, so it would not be doable, but I like the idea of you just randomly getting a different race's stuff. Which is basically what Biddy is suggesting for Omnipresence. But I don't think I'd be able to do it to the degree that I'm talking about right now. Instead, what would happen is, like, Droleths would only be able to make infrastructure stuff and, you know, assault Zerg stuff, you know, if you rolled assault from Zerg. Anyway, George is maybe under some threat, under some pressure. Our third base is on the way for Alexander. He's got a lot of macro hatches. He's got like 7 larvae right now, and going up to 8 with this hatch. I'm sure he's going to add more as well. A lot of Hydras are being made. George is making his own Hydra ball, but we don't have any crowd control, no backdolls or anything to try to deal with all those Hydras from afar. We don't have a ski back for either player. It is just a mass Hydra for mass Hydra, isn't it? If anybody's wondering about the score lines, the score line is actually all of the games that we've casted today of these 2 players duking it out. A very, very good concave over here for George to have to deal with. Alexander has a full surround on him. Well, still, the Zephyr cores are kind of screwing up the Hydra AI, though. starting to target down those guys instead of dealing with the ones in the mid-range that are doing a lot more damage. And sometimes vice versa. So that will actually drive Alexander back. And George has a whole lot more Hydras. Round of Droleth at maybe the worst time for Alexander. 15 Hydras are going to take some time to be made. He retreats all the way back, but he hasn't really catapulted his other reinforcement Hydras forward. So now he is on a strugglesome defensive retreat. He borrows the Droleths to get them out of his way, but this third base is going to get brought down, and well, all of a sudden, George's 32 workers ain't looking too bad. Huh? Not quite able to reveal that one. This one looks like it'll be a better fight for Alexander, though. You can see the concave is way better. It was a good start for him, but there's no reinforcements for George to actually send across, so absolutely disfigured. The Hydras have been beheaded many a time. Oh, trying to remake his third base down here at the 7 o'clock location. We'll have to see if that pays out for him, because George is just making macro hatches back at home. He's still on way less larva than Alexander. In theory, an overwhelm should be possible. Also retaking the base that was destroyed, so one random Hydra just scouting out Alexander, not quite seeing it on the minimap. Well, George is going to have plenty of time to figure out what this means. I think it means squeaky bum time, squeaky Hydra time. Oh my god, they are monocomping Hydras. Well, it's a better choke point for George to fight him, but the Hydra count of his opponent is much higher. Doesn't seem to matter right now. Yeah, all of a sudden George has more. Reinforcements come up. Oh no, George is not actually on attack move, so most of his Hydras aren't moving. Let's see. He's got the better positioning. Alexander not able to focus fire down, and so he just ends up losing a lot. Maybe George will just take this opportunity to move across the map and attempt to defeat his opponent, hunting down the Hydras as they try to evacuate. They've decided to go full Hydra, guys. Earlier we had Top Ramen going full Cyclops. Now we have George and Alexander both going full Hydra. A lot of workers being made for Alexander. He spikes up in worker count and tries to saturate these bases. Another hatch going down in the bottom left, right there by the Biddy B tile. There's a lot of Biddy B tiles on this map, but that one is probably the most significant. Number 3, base number 3 coming up for George. Doesn't have a lot of SP in here, so he caps his ridge inside the natural and the main. And is gearing up to make even more Hydras. I think he also needs even more hatches here. Honestly, it might be a fun time to have, like instead of just only mining minerals when I play Zerg, maybe I should mine plenty of gas, but only use it for Hydras or something. That hatch was not canceled, by the way, so that's a little bit unfortunate for George. Not that he really cares about the minerals, but is going to go ahead and add 2 more macro hatches inside his main base, which makes sense here. That's what I was going to say. If he's only making Hydras anyways, he might as well add more hatches. The Zeth Sniper squad for Alexander able to clear out the third base, and now he's got 4 mining bases of various levels of power, and a 5th one is on the way as well. So this does follow the script, right? George barely gets a natural up or whatever, and then can't get past that point versus Alexander. Alexander gets all these bases, and it might not even matter depending on how these next couple of fights go. 50 Hydras and counting. So many more to come. What's up, Shambleman? Welcome back. You're watching Hydra Wars. There's some Zeths thrown in there. Huh? That didn't last very long. Everywhere he tries to expand, Alexander is there to try to defeat him. But can he defeat the sheer number of George Hydra? Ski-backed scab has begun. We need to see more workers on minerals, dude. You got no mineral harvesters. George is 30 workers to 81, but still has almost the same number of military units as Alexander. Dare I say, he probably has a higher quality military. 75 Hydras, he could probably still beat Alexander in a head-on fight. Yeah, that Drellith went to the wrong neighborhood, honestly. Well, he's attempting a bit of a cheeky surround here. He's got a nice little spot. The Hydra count's pretty respectable on his side as well, but we've seen how one-sided these fights can be. Zet's diving forward off to the east. The Hydra's not in a great formation here for George in the southern flank, so that whole section is going to be eaten up. And now his own Hydras are caught trying to micro forward. He ends up losing most of his army, and that should be the killing blow. Alexander has more than enough Hydras left over after all of that to deal with what George's paltry remnants will be able to provide. I think he needed to fall back to the choke. He made an extreme error allowing Alexander to get such a great surround on him, and that is it. GG. Can't compete with the man who's got 5 bases. It was at that moment that George knew he fucked up. Hey, George was going to make Bactals. It just didn't work. It just wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? All right, I think we'll clear the deck on the scoreboard here, and we'll move on to the other set of games. Let's see, how much time? Oh, it's already 4 o'clock. Yeah, I definitely don't have time to do all 5 of the other games that were submitted, so I think we're going to have to skip over those. But there is one match that I would like to cast, which is it's just a single match, so it probably won't be too long, and it definitely won't be too much. Oh yes, they're on release, aren't they? George fucks up the area. Okay, so this will be an interesting one. I am looking forward to seeing this one in action. Let's see it. Let's see. This will be nice for Shambler as well. Opening up with map fuck is a good sign. Guys, welcome to a Cosmonarchy match. Zetsume and Gamtu are going to be our players here. This will be an absolute masterclass, I'm sure, because Zetsume is is a Japanese national who speaks Korean at least a conversational enough level, and Gamtu is a Korean who obviously speaks Korean as well, but they're apparently fine to communicate in English here with a stockade being made by Gamtu. I believe they're all he's. He is a, let's see, Royal Blue, yeah, Terran in the bottom left of Savior's Peak, a map by the Shambler. And in the bottom right, Zetsume is the red Zerg, vivid red in fact, and going for a hatch first. Okay, I like it. We'll see how the maps all end up playing out, but I'm looking forward to it, man. I've been waiting to see these guys play some games, and I just have a feeling that it's going to be pretty damn fun. So gather around and let's watch as the two of them are doing some gaming, doing some matches. Yeah, sorry, Shambler, your map is being played. Your map is being played. Map fuck is what I think when I load into Shambler maps. Yeah, that's pretty good. Vilius remembers getting absolutely smacked on this map. Alexander played Dino Man on this map after the hit him up hash. I remember that. Okay, we have a sort of choke being established here by the stockade lift, and then a ministry coming up afterwards. Roll that scout down to 6 o'clock. Oh, stealing the reservoir. Yeah, this is probably just another reason to not to give some critique to this map. This is probably just another thing about it that turns people off if I had to guess, but that's all right. At least it has the Cosmonarchy logo in the middle, right? The Cosmonarchy crown. Looks like this Mason is moving up to where exactly? Probably trying to figure out where his opponent is. Doesn't maybe realize that it's left-right symmetry. Fulcrum on the way for Gamtu, and a pool coming for Zetsume. They have been hanging out on just hatch first, no Larvosk or anything, and only now are they making anything else. A pool den, okay, interesting. Gas extra from the reservoir, pretty big. And we do have that second base on the way, operational for Gamtu. Starting to add more Masons where that came from. What did they even say about the mineral position? Also, the main ridge node. Holy moly, that's like 3 workers right there for sure. But there was definitely some commentary about the mineral position. I think they just said mineral position suck or fuck or something like that. But I love it. I love it. Gamtu is probably going to make another Fulcrum here. Yep, there it is. No units have begun from the first one. And a couple Mavericks are here just to kind of wall off initially. But if a lot of Quas came over there, they'd be in trouble. Even if a lot of Zets came over there, they'd be in trouble. Zetsume thinking about what to make next after the macro hatch is starting to establish. And it will be another macro hatch. Very cool. And will it be another macro hatch? No, that one's going back home to start mining. Quas get shown the door by the Mavs. Palladium. This is a pretty greedy build, actually. Hi. Says Gamtu as the Mason dies. I like Gamtu. I've decided that Gamtu is... I mean, I'm rooting for Zetsume just because I know Zetsume on the Discord server, and they communicate with us a lot about what's going on with Cosmonarchy in the Asian-speaking sort of space. Asian-speaking, as if that's a language, but you know what I mean. The Korean and Japanese, and to some extent the Chinese, although I don't think like Zetsume knows that much about it. But knows that some Chinese players do play. ZZ, says Zetsume. The ZZ is like a classic Korean manner. I don't know what exactly they're ZZing about. I'll never know exactly, but why smile? I don't know. There's something oddly threatened about it. I think it's fun in that respect. Cute. Lord Dragon, is that you? Dot. I could do this all day, guys. I could watch these two laugh it up all day. Zorka Shroud on the way for Zetsume. They have the den. Only made 1 I0 core so far. No, 2 I0 cores so far. But, you know, this is a problem. This is going to keep stacking up in favor of Zetsume. I wouldn't be surprised if a tier 2 rush is on the way. Watchdog by the natural choke, and pretty reasonable saturation for the Terran player. Not so far behind the Zerg in terms of workers. There's the Phalanx to go ahead and deploy. The Watchdog could lift off and scout, and it would actually be able to shoot over in that direction. Just 2 workers in the big gas right now, Vilius, since you asked. But that's all you need, really. Oh, no, there are 3. Yeah, so it is max saturation on that. And we do have enough Vespene for tier 2 already. Zetsume ready for the 6-minute Iris. Let's see it. Third base on the way for the Zerg as well. Very soft contain over here. Could easily be broken out. All that would require is vision. But also, Gamtu doesn't really have that many units. So, I'm not looking at it and thinking, okay, all right. Ooh, that's a tough one. Stuck behind the minerals. Crankendow would say, please fix this. And I would just say, please don't do that to yourself then. Stockade moving forward. Oh, the first player to get tier 2 is not Zetsume, though. It is actually going to be Gamtu with the Atlas on the way. Phalanx immediately shell those poor Zerg units. This is a very low army count game, right? Isn't it? Like, both of these guys are just like, yeah, we're going to have like very minimal production and just make a lot of workers. Looks like a tower creep here. There's tier 2 for Zetsume. Some Lakes have been made. Got the anti-air over here in the natural, just in case Gamtu gets any ideas. But you could still drop in this. You could still definitely commit with like a Matador drop or something. All that we need to do is like occasionally show these guys that are not really in the main community, like some of the moves that we do. Like, you know, trying to go for like the fast scrapyard Starpad player or something and then just drop Matadors. Once one of them discovers that, either by watching us or seeing, just coming up with it by themselves, you know, convergent evolution kind of thing. It's going to spread like wildfire, and everybody's going to be doing it. And everybody's going to be scared of it. Zetsume is stacking up the moves here. Lake is at the choke. Got a decent number of Droleth waiting to go. Eskigan on the way. We got the Maverick just kind of scouting around here. Atlas is complete. What does Gomtu want to do? Added another Fulcrum. But we need to see some tier 2 production now. Iral Iris is also complete. Reservoir. Okay. All right. I like it. And Spire. Immediately going live here for our Zerg player. Ski back to Scab on the way as well at the same time. So we will see some mutas in this game, I can tell you that much. The Atlas lifts off as one starport is made. What? No, Gomtu, that's not how it works. The Atlas needs to be landed to give you tech. He's like, I don't need this anymore. I can just lift it. It's like Starcraft 1, right? It still lets me build missile turrets. No. We fixed that. That's not an exploit Terran can do anymore. It needs to be landed. Maybe he'll figure it out at some point, but I'm not so sure. He's like, oh, I have to make another Atlas. Making one starport consumes my Atlas charge. There was one game I casted at some point where they did make multiple Atlas. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember who did it or why. I think they just kept forgetting that they had one or something. All right. Double Iziracore drop with Azorius and 2 Quas in it as well. Okay. So this natural here could be under a lot of duress, and there's not so many military units that are actually here for it. Oh, they figured it out. They got to land it in order to make another starport, and it's just at this time that the Zets start to push forward here. The first Phalanx might end up getting Gat, but no, not quite. Now the drops are getting ready, it looks like. Yep, in they go. Some Phalanx not in siege mode, able to help out here initially. Maverick is under fire, but no, it will end up being brought down. Zets are strong, man. All right, here we go. Big unload. Oh, the Zorius is trapped behind all the other units, but, I mean, he's just there for moral support anyway. Masons start to evacuate. Many of them have already fallen. We need to see some reinforcements get into that general location. We are getting some Sentinels up. Skithricores are on the way. Sikralisks are on the way. I think the Skits just got canceled, actually. Not entirely sure. Either that or they finished. And we will end up seeing a lot of Hydras be added, but the Rotary is on the way. We are going to see either Salamander or Sundog or both. Down will go the Zorius. And I have a feeling that the Iziracore is not going to be able to deal with the Goliath. But the Armor Rend helps out a little bit, actually. Will they be able to kill one? Will one Goliath die? Maybe. No, they go after the Phalanx. Oh no. The auto defense turrets are going haywire. Starting to mine from the 6 o'clock base, and of course setting up 4th. It is complete over here at the 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock-ish area. Macro hatches galore at the 3 o'clock. That's the Swamp, Calcure Lake, and going straight for the upgraded Spire. Okay. Osral Haunt on the way. I want to see it. Ulgorg as well, by the way. A bunch of mutas just popped. We do have some Sikralisks out. Oh, wow, that's a lot of mutas. 20 Mutalisks. And honestly, the anti-air isn't that great. The Goliaths are wounded, right? It's got like 5 of them. It looks like 6 of them. One of them's very close to death. I think that many mutas can deal with that. We only have, what, 2 Watchdogs? The Cyprian inside the anchor is probably the scariest thing here for him. 11 Protathalors on the way as well. Zerg looking like in a very dominant position. But Sundogs are starting to be made. I mean, if these were Salamanders, we'd hope for a little bit more because of the, you know, polywood adhesive mixed with, I believe it does do splash damage to air. Ironically, the Terran needs a lot of Valkyries and quickly. Cyprian does end up getting absorbed by the Skits, funnily enough. No value there. More mutas coming in from the other side as well. We have 24 of them. Only one has died so far, and it looks like this third base is mulched. Gomtu getting attacked by a cinematic amount of Zerg here. You can almost believe this is a StarCraft 1 screenshot for a second. The Sundogs are deployed, and individually they can definitely kill mutas, but there's just so many of them. No crowd control is available here. And all of what Gomtu has built up so far is being threatened. Evacuating 1 low HP Phalanx. Yeah, it's not even going to finish its animation there. The ground army might be dealt with, but the air army is still at large. At this point, the mutas are even ignoring the Watchdogs just so they can pick off the Phalanx, but I mean, there's not that many ground units left to actually help there. Good, question mark? The trash talk. No, not good. Back? Is Zetsume BMing like that? Holy moly. Or maybe they're just friendly, you know? They want each other to have some fun. 10 Gorga cores on the way. I think Zetsume knows. I think Zetsume knows what's up here. "21 Izira cores after all of those other units that got made. Protaphalors are now arriving. And yeah, Zetsume is happy to just finish this one off. We got a Terran base overrun on Savior's Peak. And that, ladies and gentlemen, fuck fly TUT unit. So why? It's easy. Well, I mean, they aren't really intended for this purpose. Fuck. Zerg here. They say strong versus armor. You good. Fuck dog, no! No! Shopkeeper dog, you just heard it here first. GG. Gamti says, fuck you, dude. Or maybe he was talking about dog lived. I'm not entirely sure. Zetsume just hanging out playing. I think they all tabbed. They didn't realize they were still in the game. There you go. All right. Well, I was not expecting that outcome. I was not expecting it to work exactly that way, but I hope you guys enjoyed that amazing game. What a feature, dude. What an experience. I love it. Now, I typically cast these in the order they were received, but Alexander really wants me to watch the most recent ZVZ that was casted or sent over. So I guess I will, even though it looks like it'll be a long one. I'm always gum-toing. Hell yeah, dude. All right. So it looks like we are on... What map is this? Hold on, I gotta look. Lucidity. Okay, very nice. The Python port. Oh no. Nobody's ever bountied that one. What is Lotem? I don't even remember that name. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another Zerg versus Zerg cast for you, and you guessed it, it's Alexander versus George. We are on Lucidity, which I believe is a 2-spawn map here. I might have seen a game or two on this map, actually. Yeah, doesn't this have like all the low ground in the middle? Yeah. Okay, I know exactly what map we're on. We have the Sunglow Zerg of Alexander in the bottom right against George, who is the... Chestnut Zerg, indeed, in the top left. So we will be seeing pool for George, probably into... well, he's going K-Grid first, but I'm assuming it's going to be pool start for him. Alexander sometimes likes to go for Hydrith, so I don't know. We have casted a lot of these guys, but this game was played very recently, so this match should actually be a little bit higher level for both players, you would think, because we'll be, you know, seeing a more practiced George and all of that stuff, so I feel like it'll be a good time. This will be our final cast of our stream. So if you've been watching so far, thank you so much for doing so and supporting Cosmonarchy. We also raised a bunch of money towards our weekend wage goal today, mostly thanks to Alexander, but also thanks to George himself. So both of these homies have been donating, and I appreciate that. You want to support us any further? Coffee.com/Pronogo in week 7, streamlabs.com/Pronogo. Both good ways to support the overarching efforts of Cosmonarchy, where we are adding that 4th races, tier 2, and eventually tier 3, but also improving the game overall, making it more desync proof and all that good stuff. We'll see you guys soon for more show matches and more exciting maneuvers, but that's all I had to say about that. So thanks for tuning in. A pool is on the way for George indeed, but also for both players. And we have a little sneaky Alexander scout here. Zerg here. I am interested in seeing where these two players end up going with the personal metas that they are developing. I have a feeling it's going to be... it's like a little bit of an arms race as to who can do the most slapdash stupid stuff. That's what I want to see. Who can catch the other guy out in a really funny way. A lot of Rilla Rokors were made by Alexander. I'm not entirely sure why. Is he trying to go like unit light and he's just using the Rilla Rokors as an rush strategy? Maybe. It's a possibility. I don't think he scouted much with his Droleth before he burrowed it. I think Cannoli, or maybe it was somebody else, it might have been Grass, told me once that they made a lot of Rilla Rokors and then made one Zorius and escorted them across the map. Oh. There he is, dude.
To complete the $50, a sanguine day, blood.
Blood. Thank you for your blood money. Literally blood money, in this case. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you for completing the $50. Very epic. That's all of the weekend wage funding we need for our next weekend wage. Weekend wage number 12, by the way. Really into Zoryu as an AOT tech? Oh, nice. Cool. Well, there's going to be a lot of larva for George, which is an upgrade over the last couple of times we've seen him. Looks like...
are Legion!
Indeed. A lot of play being had over the extra larva that Alexander normally gets over his opponent on this matchup, but George now flipping the script, going for a faster expansion than his opponent. And Alexander just creeping the Larvosks closer to the ramp. This is a very far ramp to the natural. So I fully understand why Zergs would want to not play on this map, to be honest. It's probably really hard for them. But it doesn't matter if it's in ZVZ, dude. In Zerg Mirror. It's fine. It's totally fine. Avaleth coming out here for Alexander. Actually, a couple Avaleths. What are we going to see out of this play? Is this going to be a lot of drop or what? Is it going to be a drop-tastic maneuver? Wait, hold on. If he tries to pick up his units and drop them, and then George comes in for the attack, it's going to be bad. Let's see. Well, it's not even going to have an opportunity for that sort of thing to happen as the Quas fire their shots and then fall back to a defensive position. I think in this situation, as George, you should probably just recognize you're not going to win this fight, so maybe pick off the Larvosk. Instead, he ends up doubling back. He does have reinforcements coming. Maybe he wants to go after something a little bit different. Most of the Rilla Rokors are still alive, but 2 of them have fallen in the line of duty. Brave souls. Brave frauds. And George is still massing up his army on the ramp. He's got a lot of Quas now. Reinforcing Zeths as well. It's a bit of a standoff inside Alexander's base. Remember, George has the economic lead this time, which is not something we're used to seeing. Already improvements and adaptations from him. A lot of more Zeths are on the way. All of the Rilla Rokors are dead and accounted for, I believe. Yep. No more of them. Alexander thinking about an expansion. He did make his Avaleths, and they were scouted by George. An Agroleth is on the way for Alexander. Okay. 2 Agroleths, in fact. Very cool. Does end up stunting his hatch expectancy. Not going to be able to get that off at the right time. Hydroth Den on the way. There it is. What are we doing with all these Avalas? Oh, Quaz, Kagrin. Oh, okay. All right, I get it. Unfortunately, the Agroleths are a little bit too big for that. So they're going to need to go in the front door or something. Base number 3 coming up for George. His Hydrothin is nearly complete. He'll be able to afford more units. I don't know. I like the Gambit, but I am worried that it won't quite work out the way that he wants it to. I actually need to look something up. Please stand by. I am downloading some data into my brain. I did buff the Agrolith so that they can fit inside an Ovilith, just so you guys know. Oh, definitely please stand by them. Because this is a situation where we have the wrong replay version because Alexander did not provide me the right replay version. Hold on. I gotta go back. Yeah, version 308.408.1 is not correct. So, Alexander, can't believe you would do that. Now I have to make so many cuts to put this video online right. SM8. I was going to say, that looked a little bit funny. What version would it even be then? This is why you don't rename the replays to not include the version. Because you'll end up confusing yourself, and then I don't even know what you were doing. Okay, it must have been when I tweaked the Tetzoricor and the Agrolith, because that's when I made the balance change. Well, I guess we'll test on that. Yeah, I couldn't have possibly tweaked the Agrolith. Hold on. Yeah, dude. I've been frauded, all right. I'll just watch to that point real quick without switching over, and we'll confirm that they actually load into the game correctly. But it says I tweaked the Agrolith in the version after what was supplied, so unless I had tweaked the Agrolith transport space, but not the resource cost beforehand or whatever, I don't know. I don't think so. That doesn't seem right. Absolutely frauded. Okay, looks like we are on the right track now. Sorry about that frauding, guys, but a certain fraud gave me a fraud. Here we go. This is time for the Ovileths to move forward with the Agroliths actually in them now. So we weren't crazy for thinking that didn't make sense. We do have the Zeths and the Quas moving forward. And the hatch is on the third base location for George. His Hydrothin just popped, and everything is right with this reality. We don't have random Agroliths chasing after the Ovileth. That's not the right reality. It's not the right reality. Hydrothin halfway complete. Pool turning into the Vornath, so Alexander will be going for a bunch of, I guess, Zeths at some point, since he won't be able to use the Quas yet. Unless he wants to go all the way for Kalkir. I could see that. I could see. He also has a Droleth parked over here from before. I guarantee you he's planning on using that to instantly make another Kagrint as well. So that should be a pretty good time. Droleth's continuing to saturate over here. I will say George has definitely improved his worker production, which is funny because Alexander seems to have regressed if you just look at this one game, but that's because he's trying something extremely silly. Well, he's preparing. He's scouting forward. He's got the Kagrint, one Agrolith. Drops the first one. Okay. So you got to watch out because the vision radius is probably like around this point. So they need to be careful about establishing too much Kagra. I think like this Kagrint alone is going to eventually spread the Kagra forward enough that George will be aware. And his army is big enough that he can just step on this. Now, is his army big enough to overwhelm what Alexander has on the front? I think the answer is actually yes. So depending on what his moves are, we could see a really cute move that he's doing here. only for it to backfire when Alexander just has to take a bunch of damage in the front. But the agroliths are making, he's got a lot of agroliths over here, and he's making a lot of static defense. The Kagra is clearly unified, so as soon as George sees that, he should be like, what the hell's happening? But so far, he has not noticed. Hold on, let's keep watching his POV. I mean, there's a lot of circuits to have to try to clear. All that versus one Nathr core, you know what I mean?
Zerg here.
Yeah, there's some Zerg here. What are you going to do about this, dude? Sending in the Izira cores. Yeah, I think he's going to realize pretty soon that that ain't right. Now, there's a lot of quads here, and George is going to need to focus his micro efforts on this front line, but he's not doing it! He's not doing it! He's just right-clicked! He's just right-clicked! He didn't even attack move! George, no! Oh, jeez. What an absolute disaster. I don't think that's exactly what he intended to happen. George, no, you had to actually attack move the enemy. Now you're slowly being eaten alive. Well, his Hydras are up here trying to clear the Quas. Maybe he can try to pick off those Kagrants. If you kill the Kagrant while the Agrolith is making it, you also kill the Agrolith. It's a cheap way to do it. So, kind of risky to do this kind of thing on the front line here. Now he's massing up more Hydras, but the circuits keep getting closer. Yeah, down. That's one of the Agroliths already dead. I guarantee you that George just doesn't really know what this mechanic looks like, because he's probably never faced it before. Well, if he can actually kill the Agrolith, that's all that he needs to do. He's trying to target it down. Ah, yeah, there's so many circuits, dude. Now this is Zerg here. And now he just loads everything up. He's like, yeah, you're not going to attack into me. I'm just going to go ahead and drop you. But honestly, George could actually attack over here. And his Hydras and Quas are going to catch this drop before it even happens. So pretty good play from George. He's not out of it yet. He still has his den. Remaking his pool as well in the process. Third base mining. Honestly, this isn't so bad. But he does need to kill the Agrolith, I think. He really needs to get this monkey off of his back. If he can do that, he can be in a better position. Especially since, look, the Kagrant's so low, you could snipe it with the Hydras you have. Sustain those losses. Avlos going the other direction now. You can see him trying to do it, but it's so anemic, he needs to use all his Hydras. Oh, at least finish that one off. He won't. 18 Hydras just got made. He's going to try to stamp this out the old-fashioned way. The reinforcements haven't actually left the building just yet, so... He's going to try to dive forward this time with an actual attack move, and you can see how much more dangerous it is. Quas are taking a lot of licks from all of the Izira cores. I think these three circuits are still going to be enough to help defend. More Hydras are on the way. It looks like the Agrolith has fallen. And I think he's going to beat back enough of the circuits that it won't matter too much for his tech. He knew he had to defend his Hydra den, that's for sure. As long as he finishes this Kagrant off, he's in safe harbors. He can now move all of the rest of his attention elsewhere. But look, the drops are moving to his third base. He needs to use his Zets immediately as a defensive force. Instead, he's trying to dive forward and see if he can attack into the enemy base. I'm not so sure it's going to work out that way. Why is he still trying to kill these static defense structures? This is useless for Alexander. It's not helping him. The drops bypass the third base entirely. They're going for reinforcements. He's just going to be as annoying as possible with pure Quas, but he did not bring any extra Agroliths. Quas in high numbers. Not so sure this is going to work out. Now they dive forward into the main base. They are going to be able to finish off the Hydras den here. Look at all of the extra larva production that was made, but most of it's Larvosks, and they are under duress from the Quas. Pop goes the Weasel. Or whatever the Zerg equivalent of a Weasel is. Avaloth's evacuating to go back and fly home. No more Hydras can be made. He's stuck on pool units only. And he dives forward with a lot of Zeth and Hydra. Hold on. Do we have any reinforcements back at home? Yes, there are some Quas here for Alexander. I don't think he's in too much danger here. Certainly not in as much danger as George is inside the main base. 3,000 minerals floating. Could have been so many units. And all of the Larvosks are getting popped. Zerg here. but too many Zerg at home for Alexander to be flatlined, and George is going to start to collapse. Everything was looking up for him. He had more bases, more workers. He was doing everything right, except for sniping the Agrolith. It's the kind of thing that only works once. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well, he's now down to just having a pool over there in the main base. Could easily be sniped by the claws. Remember, no easy way to reinforce. Although, Alexander could have popped some of these circuits in the back to regress them and turned them into Larvosks, and that would have been a nice move. Suddenly, there's more units being made inside his enemy's base. Even this is a struggle for George to clear, so he dives back to those hatches. He's got 2 Agroliths on the way. 2 Agroliths on the way to make new stuff. 3 hatches to reinforce the 3rd base, but there's more Zerg coming out of the main gate now. Alexander will not only be using Ovoleths to transport his stuff. Unbelievable. Is George still in the game? I mean, he's got a superior economy still, but his natural's about to deplete. Yeah, in fact, maybe he doesn't have a superior economy, despite the worker lead. Oh yeah, Tudor, you built a diadem in an enemy base. It was you versus Quickscops, I think. That was outrageous. I think the Quaz count is a little bit too high here for Alexander. George is struggling to force him off, but look. The eggs are being killed. More circuits are spreading. No Hydrath Den was ever remade, so you can't make Hydras. He's making his own Ovoleths. He's like, fine, I'll drop you then. And, you know, admittedly, there aren't that many defenses in here. But there's also not that many Larvosks. It's mostly Hatch for Alexander's production. My god. Man alive. He's found the pool. You can't pick up circuits. You can only pick up K-Grunts. So you have to upgrade your Ovoleth at tier 2 in order to pick up the circuit. So. And yes, people don't know this, but you can make Pythians at tier 2 and you can use them to pick up diadems. It's pretty good. Looks like the drops are earmarked, but look, Alexander spotted it. He's preempted it. It's like that near impact game. Utter chaos and just utter disaster has struck. Alexander, you know what you must do. Make a Hatcherosk. George is trying to press forward, but the circuits will be more than enough to rebuff him here. He cannot win from this position. If he's going to win, he's going to do so by dragging this game out a ridiculous length. Look, he's almost got enough money. Make the hatch. Combat drop on top of everything, but oh, George hasn't found the... He's got to click on the unload button and then click on a location. There you go. It's a little bit too much spawn camping, though. Still driving forward. Still trying to pile the bodies forward. I think the claws are not enough. The circuits are barely scratched. Despite George's best attempt. One of the most deranged ZVZs we've seen in recent history is coming to a close with Alexander getting the better of him. And there it is. The hatch has begun. It is his main base now. His second main. His home away from home. Alexander vacationing in Romania. George has been defeated. There's just no way he can proceed. Didn't even kill a single circuit, it looks like. Maybe did regress one, actually. 1 or 2. I wish I could say this was practice for the hit 'em up hash, but this was actually played after it. What a mess. Well, he's trying to load up the quads again. I guess he thinks he can maybe get in and unload onto the main base mineral line or something, but... I mean, at this point, Alexander is depleted in the main, surely. Oh, no, he's not, actually. He's just been that undersaturated for so long. So there's the unload above the ramp, or I guess below it in this case, but it doesn't really matter. The front line is dead. He's got nothing left. His Oveleths are sniped, and that is a wrap. GG. George has fallen. Alexander, you beautiful bastard. Between the two of you, you managed to produce a combined total of 1,000 units and lose 750 of them. So that's a pretty good bloodbath for only 18 minutes. GG. Pretty wild stuff there, dude. That was an absurd amount of blood, as Alexander once said. I hope you guys have enjoyed this casting stream. We went for 3.5 hours. Pretty good stuff. I'm going to rest my voice for a little bit, take a walk, get some laundry done, you know, see to some chores around the house and all that. But when I'm back in, I don't know, maybe 2 hours or so, I will be getting some work done on The Fall. And by work, I mean play, because I'm going to be playing it. So you can stay tuned for that Protoss campaign. Going to be playing that, courtesy of 3Crow, seeing how many missions we can complete in the time that I have to my name. And after that, it'll be probably a little bit of, you know, general development on the project, but I will not be streaming that part. I'll just be doing it in my own quietude. Thanks for tuning in, for donating the big dollars, and we will be back soon for some more Cosmonarchy. Hell yeah, George, thanks for playing all that BS, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Better than ever, of course. GG.